Okay. See that? That's tools. I keep all this kind of stuff on the bottom shelf in here, where honestly, I would prefer to have my vacuum cleaner. Right? See that? That's my tool bag. You see that? That's tools. And more over there. Right now I'm kind of going through them and putting them in boxes. Do you see this? I'm going to label the boxes. Because what's happening here is I'm going blind. As if we don't know that, right? Which means I'm lucky to see anything these days. Like, it's bad. I told my son my days are numbered. Yeah, I did. Anyway, they're not that numbered yet. I told you, I will go until I just can't go no more. And even then I'll be scrapping. Okay, if you mess with me in the wrong kind of way, that is. So, the problem that I've had with this house all these years is I was basically required to buy tools because of the state of the yard, people, more than anything, and the porch. The porch, right? The porch has always needed repairs to some degree or another, to which I've never been able to fully repair it to any degree. I'm busy. What do you want, Alea May? Who is that? Alea May, what do you want? Okay, well, you go back in the living room. I'm working in this corner here. And before I could do any kind of yard work, building things to cover up sand, weeds, water drainage problems, grit, mud, a lot of mud, right? A lot of weeds. Just, ugh. You know, I had to invest into more tools. Now, I came in with a few tools, but over the years I had to buy a fair amount of tools, to which I'm at the point now where I can't really see the tools. But my son showed an interest in the greenhouse. And he goes, well, you know, I want to get up in that area, but, you know, I'm going to tear down this and tear down that. And I'm like, I don't need you ragging on me. And I'm like, as if I care. After all this time. And since you brought it to my attention, what do you plan on tearing down? Well, that fence is there, it's in my way. I can't move around the greenhouse to, you know, and I'm like, well, first of all, let me remind you, that fence that is there was one of the first things you, my son, and I put up. Because initially we were going to make it into a dog den, right? And then I had to build in the greenhouse to cover up the problems with the weeds and with the raccoons shitting in the weeds. So I just built a greenhouse over that spot to move the raccoons away from it, right? And then I got the chickens, and then along came Mr. Lace's cat house. Well, first it was Mr. Lace's coop, the rooster, right? As I was building a storage shed of some kind, because I had absolutely no storage shed, and all my tools and everything were in the house, getting in my way, people, getting in my way. Like, I'm so tired of it, but as I'm going through them, I'm already starting to miss them, because it won't be long before I just won't be able to use them. But I'm going to pass them on to Andre and my son. Whereas other people think I should just get rid of them, even though I made the investment into them, and that I should never need to have to use them again, because it's already been predetermined that I'll never live in another house and I will never need tools again in my life. And if it's not me, it's the rest of my family, because we're all in the same freaking classism, boat, category, poop pile, whatever you want to call it, right? All right. So, anyway, he goes, I want to take down that fence because it's in my way, blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying, oh, up where the hen house is, that's, you know, I started that off with Andre, making it into a playhouse. First it was supposed to be a dog den. Then it went into a playhouse for Andre when I got him back from foster care, and I've got videos of Andre and I building it. And then I got Mr. Lace, the rooster, because the kids brought him home in the middle of the night because somebody released him into the community so that he would become coyote meat, because they don't want roosters, they want hens, right? Anyway, then I built Mr. Lace his own coop with the assistance of my son using pallets from Home Depot. And then I also built 2 sheds, one that's pretty much leak-proof, where the other one runs like a sieve. So, and I was kind of doing that off and on with Uncle John. And I'm using tools. You've seen my videos. I've been using the skill saw for years. I can probably still use the skill saw on a 2x4, but I don't think I'd be brave enough with my eyes at this point. Although it depends on how dark and deep the line is, I probably could still use a skill saw on a piece of plywood. But am I really going to be out there hammering and cutting wood and, maybe a little bit? I told Andre I can probably still cut a 2x4 no prob, but I don't know if I want to go as far as start cutting sheets of plywood, because they tend to when you get to a certain point, right? And I don't like it when the skill saw kicks back on you, because right? And I'm kind of weak now. I'm not as strong as I used to be. So, when in doubt, I would ask my son. But anyway, I said, well, as if I care about that fence, because first of all, that's the first fence that you and I ever did in this yard. That was one of the first things that went up, because we had Sadie the dog and we were going to build a dog den, right? But in that corner basically is where the energy weapon goes through, with that funky little spider horse looking thing that actually went through the fence, which is probably related to Project Bluebeam because of the color within the film itself when it came to my camera recording. Is it a ghost? No. It was probably Project Bluebeam producing some sort of image, because I've come to the conclusion that my yard over the years has been used as a test subject for different types of energy weapons, because I've actually documented, well, five different types of energy weapons, in my opinion, that have either gone through the house or been in my yard. All right. Besides that point, you just got to keep on going, right? So, work, bought all the tools. Now, like, for example, I got all this vinyl still from, I know I'm supposed to be doing a video on the other subject, which I'll get to, right? But, like, this is frustrating because, I'm not that old, people. I still have a fair amount of energy, and, like, it really sucks that I can't do the things that I used to do fluently with eyesight. Like, for example, I have all that vinyl that something has to happen to it this year. Preferably, I want to dress up the yard with it. It's, has a lifespan of 25 years, right? It looks good when it's up, easy to clean, and, there's a lot of repairs that need to be done in the yard, to which I plan on doing, with or without the assistance of whoever. And so before I could cut up the vinyl, though, because I don't have a proper saw, like, you can do it with a skill saw, but you have to have a certain blade, to which I don't have. Anyway, I wanted to teach Andre about tools. So I went off and I what are these called? Vice grips? I'm pretty sure they're called vice grips, right? I went off and I bought the left cut, the right cut, and the center cut, and then I don't know, I think I have a couple of these of my own kicking around, although from what I can tell, these ones are looking pretty new. So I probably bought 3 as a set and 1, right? So that, when I'm working with Andre out in the yard, I was supposed to do the vinyl siding last year. It didn't happen, though. And then I asked my landlady's younger son, Cody, to come and help. He said he would, but that never manifested. So whether he comes this year and helps, that would be great, because I'd like to just kind of boom, boom, boom and get it done with, right? either or. I made the necessary preparations and investment to be able to cut the vinyl correctly. As I teach Andre about vice grips and the different angles that they cut at for different things, to which you can cut metal, vinyl siding, those kind of things, right? But I'll never have another house like this again after I move out, because my government, along with organized religion, has made sure that that would happen, including God knows the rest of my family, because like I said, we're under that caste system where it's more like a throwaway system. And you know, so whatever little investment that I made is kind of mute. However, I will use them this year, or I'll at least attempt to use them, as I pass them on to my son. If he needs them when he's out doing whatever he's doing, because he's going to take over and nurture the greenhouse, I advised him to plant tomatoes and can them. Right? I told him I wanted to plant a few tomatoes and whatever, and he said, well, do what you want, as long as you leave me alone so that I can do what I want. And the first thing I want to do is cut down that fence because it's in my way. And then, like I said, I reminded him that was one of the first things that went up on this property. And then from that point forward, I just built around that fence. That fence has been sitting out there for 14 years, people. So when my son helped me to put that fence up, that chain link fence, after 14 years, it's still up. I would think he did a pretty damn good job, considering all things said. So he's going to cut that, and I don't know. And then I told him, I can't deal with, you know, much outside of maybe this and a few other things. Obviously, I have to work on the porch and try and figure out how to stop the leaking of it everywhere, because it's rotting out the porch, like literally rotting out the porch, but I can't stop the wood rot because I can't stop the leaking. But I will attempt to do that, like I do every year. And yeah, what was I saying? Like, it's pretty discouraging, right? It's so I told him, like, you can do what you want with the hen house. Take down the fence, but know that you know, what's inside was the original playhouse that I made for Andre, with Andre. He never played in it, but we built it together when he got out of foster care. He was little, right? I spent a lot of time doing things with him out in the yard, took him to the walnut trees, did all that, right? And then Mr. Lace came, and then my landlord brought us 7 hens, and then we had the hens, and then I felt the need to make a hen house, to which I started boxing off the playhouse to make nesting beds for the chickens, right? Fencing it off on the inside so the raccoons and the rats couldn't get inside. I even laid, I'm pretty sure, chicken wire under the floor that I built somewhat to prevent rats from coming in from underneath. Couldn't do it all, didn't do it all. But then, you know, city came and took Mr. Lace and the birds that I had left, and that's just been kind of sitting there on the wayside. And then I had, 2 years ago, I hired some homeless people. When my son threw out all that shit out in the front, right? They were picking away at it one night. We were talking, and I told them that I needed help to gut that and to do some repairs and blah, blah, blah. And they came, and they got that on recording with video, and the guy picked a fight with his wife or girlfriend or whatever she was, and or maybe she knew that he was going to try and rip me off, because he ended up coming back later at a later date, early in the morning, got into my shed out in the front here and robbed me, right? So none of it ever got done. So my son now is going to go out there and poke around. I told him that there was a smoker in there, an old one, right? But only it hooks up to propane. He goes, I don't know if I want propane. I said, well, it's there, right? It's an actual smoker. It's quite large. And maybe I'll take you out and I'll show you, right? In the next week or two. And my son won't be out there for a while yet. It's still very cold outside. And, you know, I said, well, maybe you have a friend. Because he has lots of friends, right? That can take that and don't mind using propane. And then it's like a smoker. All they have to do is clean it up, right? If there's a little rust on it, just sand it down and get some proper paint or oil to oil the metal down so it stops rusting. And it will be fine, right? Little elbow grease, that's all it is. Or whatever. So I'm going through all this now because I have a lot of tools, people. I really do. And I'm making it where Andre can find them if he needs them. These are socket wrenches. I already gave a whole big case full of this stuff to my son downstairs. But I have this set. This is a full set. I've got my Allen keys there. I got my drill bits. Right? My son doesn't really use these yet. What are these? I've never used them. Oh look, I have glasses on my head. Now, if I end up homeless, after it's all said and done, what are people going to say about me? Oh, she did it to herself. She shouldn't have been a closet addict. Yeah, all those years she was living at that house, who would have known? Oh, shut up. So what is this? This looks like there's a couple of them missing. It's almost like a form of an Allen key. Where am I? Yeah, there you go. Do you see that? But not really quite an Allen key. Every now and then, I do. I come across screws that are kind of like that. How many's missing here? One. Or maybe no. I don't think anything's missing here. That's nothing. I always thought there was one missing, but it doesn't appear to be. Every now and then, I come across screws that an Allen key doesn't work with. That's probably what this is for. What are these small things used for? Same idea. I can't see that fine anymore. And this would go on a socket, on a socket wrench. I bet you that's how it works. Oh my God. What's the matter with you? Oh, here we go. Let's see. I got one right here. Right? Isn't that just lovely? Look at that. What man wouldn't want to have that? My son said to me. My son. Because he knows I'm like pickly over my tools, right? He knows I don't like it when he takes my tools and loses a bit. Oh, I get so mad. But he made sure to remind me that, you know, he's a little more organized. And not so quick to lose a bit. Because you just never know when you're going to come across that screw that is unusual and you want to take it. Now, how do you get this thing off? I don't know. It's not something that I normally use. There we go. Easy. Just push the button. Look at that. Now, I am so pleased. So, so pleased. Obviously, I won't be using it. But you never know. One day my son will come to me and he'll say, Mom. He'll have a screw in his hand. He'll say, Mom, do you have a screwdriver that looks like this? And I'll be looking with my magnifying glass and I'll be like, yeah, as a matter of fact, it's where the socket wrenches are. It's just a different kind of bit, that's all. I'm just saying. It's weird. They got it like they got it on this. Oh, maybe there is one missing. Yeah, one is missing. But you can't have everything in life. So one is missing. But what can you do? I think when I bought it, because I remember buying it at Canadian Tire long, because I had to buy tools, people. I was buying tools to work in this yard with the city of Surrey whip on my back every fucking couple of years, right? Because we know what was going on when it came to, well, if we scare the bitch off, work her hard enough, she'll get fed up and she'll fucking move, and then we can raise up the rent to whatever the market value is, and so on and so on and so on, right? But you know what? I never gave up, people. My back has got so much fucking scars, sorry, boo-boo scars on it, too many to even count, okay? And I bought whatever I felt necessary at the time, and these were on sale, so I picked them up. But I've never used them yet. But I know through my travels, I have definitely come across those kind of bits that an Allen key, like screws, right? Screws that an Allen key wouldn't work on, because that's a totally different end, right? It's just, I don't know where to put this. Into what? Who is that?
Me.
What are you doing?
Wait, Mickey, she was bugging me with what's up.
Can I get some clear tape? I'm just going to tape this up so these don't get lost. You know, stuff like this is expensive. Now I'm thinking to buy a Dremel tool. 2 of them. Go see what's going on. One nice one for myself, as if I can use it. But I figured the more I go blind, the more I'll get into wood burning and that kind of stuff. And maybe wood carving. Depends. Right? To some degree or another. Engraving or something. And Dremel tools are good for that, right? Because you can do a lot of those things. And then, of course, an extra one for Andre, to which, ultimately, my son will get. Now, I just, for whatever reason, seen a pair of scissors here. And I've been clearing out my room, putting food in there and bringing out other things. I did find the key, I'm pretty sure, for the wall unit downstairs in that little cubby that's been a food storage area for the last 14 years. Because I was afraid I'd have to cut that, and I don't have to, I don't think, because I went digging around in my room yesterday, moved a whole bunch of shit out, as I'm putting food in there because it's cold, and, you know, I just seen scissors, I just had them in my hand, and where the hell did they go? And here we go. So if I leave it in this, seems to be pretty good. But this kind of sticks out. What did I pay for it? As is. Yeah, one was missing. As is item. Of course, I can't see the fine print because my eyes are getting bad every day for whatever strange reason. I don't know. Date. I don't see a price on it. Either or. I'm just trying to get similar tools into some cardboard boxes. So when the time comes, my son will say, Mom, do you have this? Mom, do you have that? But I've got my old bag here that I bought when I was living at Gateway Place and I was doing metal recycling. To secure under the trademark name a means to fundraise. So I kind of had to go through the process of busting up TV screens and taking off the copper from the cathode and unwrapping it and stripping wires and, oh my God, taking it to the recycling center, cashing it in, and then I'd go off into Gateway, into the playground, and I'd come back after I cashed in whatever it was that I fucking stripped from whatever electronics I could muster up over a period of a year. I bought hockey nets, hockey balls, just that kind of shit. Secured the federal trademark because I did that. And what did it get me? You will never have another house like this. Get rid of your fucking tools. Thank you very much for building us sheds and this, that, and everything else under the sun. But besides that point, I still don't pay enough rent. It's just dumb, people. It's dumb. I will never qualify for middle-class subsidized housing. Yeah, it's kind of sticking out. So maybe if I cut it. Because if I cut it, it will sit nice in the box. And then when my son needs it, because he'll need it before me, more than likely, then I can just say, oh, there's the box. Just go get the box. Everything you need is in there. Just look after it. Alright. I just asked him that when he's out there working, take Andre out so Andre can continue to learn. He'll just pick up where I left off. There. Pretty nice. Doesn't quite still fit in the box. But maybe I can fold it over or something. Oh boy. Maybe this box. No. Oh my Lord. There we go. Just barely. Just barely. Oh yeah, I want to show you something. Alright, I'm going to go get it. I want to show you and then I'm going to end it, okay? And then we're going to get into the videos. So hold on, man. This is too funny. Too funny. When I found this today, I was chuckling to myself. I'm pretty sure this is what this is. Okay. Again, I've bought a lot of tools. For a little teeny weeny white woman to have as many tools as I have, this is just a fraction. Kind of makes you wonder how that happened. Anyway, you know, I'm not doing major shops now. I'm more like fine-tuning things. And so, you know, I don't know how coconut came onto the menu. It was on sale. It was on sale at Canadian Superstore, and I'm thinking, well, what can I do with coconut, right? Fresh coconut. Well, you know, so I Googled what to do with coconut. Anyway, came across a recipe where you can make a coconut crepe. Just a coconut crepe. You use real shredded coconut to help make the crepe. Okay. And then on the inside, you put mango. Only I'm going to be putting real whipping cream in between my coconut crepe with fresh mango. You could even use canned mango. And real cream, whipping cream. It's however sweet you want it. So I have the whipping cream. I bought two round fresh coconuts. I got the mangoes. And anyway, today, I let Andre start with the smoothies, right? Because, you know, I've been building on that. So he goes, oh, and I said, yeah, whatever you do, though, you know, you need to make Amari's a special kind of way. So you make the smoothie, but before you put the ice in, you take it out, put some in a bowl for Amari, so it's more like a pudding versus like a drink, because, you know, he'd get it all over, right? It's easy. Okay. So, but before he could do that, he had to do something with the coconut, right? And I said, yeah, you can use the coconut water, right, first, and then you grind up some coconut in the water, and then you put in the mango and the banana. We did coconut, fresh coconut, mango and banana with coconut water. He made it, put some in the bowl for Amari. Amari loved it. He gobbled it up. I said, this is great because I'm going to probably let Andre do this every day. That's why I stocked up on canned mango, canned pineapple, so that I can supplement fresh fruit with canned fruit. Add in, you know, I says, you know, could have added in a few leaves of spinach, whatever. Where with Mari, you know, I can grind up meat very fine and mix it in that, where he's getting the protein, but he's not balking at it, because a lot of it is to do with texture. And then, of course, if it's a little sweeter, he's more apt to eat it, right? So now we're back on. Well, I have to clear off the table to get to the computer so we can work on Amari's side dish cookbook, right? So, all right. And then he asked me, you know, like how he's going to cut he asked me for the hacksaw, because I told him, you need to, you know, I don't want you smashing up the coconut. I want you cutting it so that you have a nice half of a coconut, so that, you know, we can make mobiles with the walnuts that I have hopefully still kicking around my yard somewhere. I'm talking.
All right, go ahead, back.
Leave me alone.
Then it's back up.
I've got a camera here. I don't want you knocking it. I can't show you just yet. What are you doing, kiddo? Don't hurry up.
Did you tell them about the smoothie?
Yeah, I'm talking about your smoothie right now and how Amari gobbled it up and.
I want day one.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's full.
I know.
It did bad.
That's a little turtle massage tool. Let me see it. It's for my feet. I got bad feet. Here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Okay. Don't touch nothing else. Alea May, come and get Kyrie. I don't want him wandering around in the kitchen by himself. No, don't call him. Come get him. Come get him. He's sneaky, that one. He gets into everything. Alea May! Alea May!
Yes,
Get Kyrie.
it did.
I don't want him touching nothing.
And it did already, and cleaned it too.
Where is he? Well, that's okay. He can play with that.
Is it grass?
No, it's plastic. Okay, take him to the living room. Andre's coming right back.
Is it going to the bathroom?
Yes, that's right. But I don't want Kyrie running around in the kitchen by himself. There's too much crap going on. I'm moving things around. I'll show you when Andre leaves. Because I'm going to spring it on him tomorrow. He doesn't know. He doesn't know yet. Anyway. I said, well, you need to cut it. What did I say? Why are you not listening to me?
Come.
Kyrie is being a little... Take it with you. What'd you do? Break it? No. Okay. Here comes Andre. Listen to him nicely. All right. Andre, give me that tool that you cut the coconut with.
Tool?
Mm-hmm. He did a really good job. Because I said, you know, you want to make it so that maybe we can make something with it, right? You know, waste not, want not, right? It's not that hard.
This?
Is that what you used?
Yes.
Okay. So he goes off looking for the hacksaw. I had two of them. Edgar came by, he fixed underneath the sink, changed everything down there. He needed to use a hacksaw, so I brought out the hacksaws. And then my son, after Edgar was gone, came and asked me if he could have a hacksaw. So I gave him a hacksaw, right? And I'm pretty sure I have another hacksaw. It's supposed to be in my sewing room in a drawer there, but Andre couldn't find it. Anyway, he looking around, he found this. This is his when he was a little boy, people. Okay, this is from his toolbox from when he was a little boy. I know because I could tell by the plastic. Anyway, he used that to saw the coconut, and he did a really good job. Looking pretty damn good, right down the middle, just the way I asked him to do it. All right. I don't got time to be running around looking for a hacksaw right now. Right? I know there's should be one kicking around upstairs because I gave one to my son and I had to. Either or. So I'm in here though, right? Because, you know, I'm clearing out shit from my room as I'm putting food in my room. And I'm having to rearrange. So now I'm rearranging right here to where I'm going to put these tools for now. I'm underneath there. I'd love to clear that out and be able to put my vacuum cleaner in there, but we'll wait and see what happens with that. And what do I find? Andre doesn't know about this yet, so we're going to leave it on a kind of a funny note. Because tomorrow, or the next day or the day after, when we're ready to make those coconut crepes, probably in a few days because I'm kind of busy, right? You know, he's going to have to cut it. Well, he's going to ask for this. Only I'm going to whip out this. Look what I found. I'm pretty sure that's a hacksaw. That's one big-ass hacksaw. Mine is a little smaller. It's... Where am I? Yeah, about like that. Right? About that much. All the way. Almost as long, not quite. But this thing, I don't know. He doesn't know I have it. I didn't even know I had it. I forgot about it. Because normally anytime I need a hacksaw, I'll use the other ones. But my son took one. And now one's missing in action. So it should be interesting to see what this one looks like. Oh my. How does this work? This has got some weird, wicked blade on it. Yeah. But it's going to be funny. Andre will ask me for his little saw. And I'll be, well, hold on a minute. I found a brand new hacksaw, Andre. I don't think it's ever been used, people. Look at the blade on that one. Oh my God. Talk about a hacksaw. Look at this thing. That's too funny. I don't know what it's meant for in terms of what you'd cut with it. But it's pretty, it's brand new. Yeah. I don't know if I'd let him cut it with the coconut though. He'd have to be very careful with it. This blade is extremely sharp. I can feel it. Whereas this one, not so much. He puts the coconut on a towel. But I bet you this one would work very, very, very quickly. Yeah. That's some wicked ass blade. Look at the blade on that. Where am I? That's got some serious teeth on it. But I don't know if I'll let him use it. Depends. Maybe. But that was too funny. So eventually my son will inherit these tools, because I don't know when I'll need this hacksaw anytime soon. But there's really no place to put this stuff. Because even if you put them outside in a shed, the moisture, after a while, starts to eat away at the metal and you get rust. I have videos of me sanding down my tools that were outside in a shed, all locked up, tucked away like a dirty secret, so nobody could find them. And when I finally did pull them out, I was like, and now it's like stupid. Completely stupid. So I'm kind of trying to put these basically in their own category to some degree or another. I've got other toolboxes, and like I have this thing full of this container that's in there that's full of files, different size files. Files are expensive to file wood, because sometimes you need to do that, right? Especially when you're working on frames and stuff. Door frames or window frames, and sometimes you have to file things. Or whatever, right? Now, you seen what I just did, eh? I went like this. Doesn't matter. Now, I know I've been touching tools and stuff like that, but even if my hands are like completely clean after I washed them and dried them and then go like this, oh my God, everything just blurs up like so bad. Like, it's pathetic. Freaking pathetic, people. Okay, so, you know, this is stuff that the middle class would have in their quote-unquote homes, to which many of them are losing due to no fault of their own, outside of being manipulated into poverty. Yeah. Right. So don't believe the hype. They did it to themselves. That's where they wanted to be. No. These because it's manufactured poverty. And then the good old days. The good old days. This is a container to put celery and green onions and stuff with. I actually have lists, I think, of these. But I'm going to take it out of that and put it into a box, and then my son can decide what he wants when he wants it. And then eventually, I don't know where to put them. That's one of the hard things about living in this house. I've never really known where I put them. And then at one point I did move some stuff downstairs, but my son kind of threw it out into the garage. And then some of that stuff came back upstairs. So. And then we got another little, see, here's another one of these things. So hopefully that will fit in that box with the other ones. Yeah. Because you never know, right? The size that you need when the time comes. Alright. Here's some more vice grips. No, that's not vice grips. Wait a minute. What are these things called? Maybe these are not vice grips. I can't remember. There's some kind of clipper, because you cut with them. These are vice grips. Right? These are something else. I can't remember what they're called. I have a book around here that see, these are different. Oh, here we go. See, this is my old pair. When I was stripping, when I was metal recycling. Yeah. That's my pair. They're old. I worked them hard. So these things probably just stay here. And then we've got, it looks like wire cutters. Probably have a few more of those around, kicking around as well. Yeah, those are wire cutters. Oh, here's another one of these things. Does not, well, no. It's a big one. Look how big that one is. That's a big one. We've got some needle nose pliers. I've got them more around the house. These are nice pliers. Look how nice those are. Yep. Even if they rust up, you just derust them, sand them down, derust them, and oil them down, and they'll last a lifetime. And people in my position were just expected to throw it away. Living a pipe dream, basically. Yeah. Being accused of this, accused of that. I guess I'll leave those there, and maybe, just maybe, I might be able to put those things in there. Yeah, those things would be better in that container. Hopefully I'll have enough room. In a year from now, none of it will matter anything to me. Simply because I can't see it. Yeah. What else we got here? And then it looks like I've got a fair amount of, that's a nice metal brush. That's a really nice one. Here's another pair of those things. Same idea. Yeah, these ones are old too. Only these ones are longer. Right, their snouts are longer. So we'll try and put that in that container. There's another little hacksaw. That's a small one. But I've got blades in there, so for that. So that should work. I'm emptying out this bag of mine so that when my son is saying, do you have this, do you have that? Here's that brush. I'll be like, yeah, there's a bag for you to fill up. Andre's little hammer when he was little. This actually looks like a couple, well, there's a few different kind. See how rusted that up? Wouldn't take much to clean that up and make it look nice. And then because it's a wood handle, you just oil it down, to which I have oil now. So I could do that if I wanted to. Anyway, in this bag, I noticed were some cutting blades. So I'm going to go to the cutting blades. You put something and you hammer on this. Alright. Different kinds, right? There's a few more in there, and then I've got other containers that have as well. There's another one. Looks like it's got something in there, but it's stuck. So it needs to be opened up, cleaned, oiled, maybe sanded down. I can see it kind of like it's rusted, but it's nothing that can't be fixed. I don't know where to put this stupid shit. I've never liked it in my house. It's been such a burden. It really has, people. But it was a necessity. And now it becomes a moot point for me. But at least it's here for my son and for my grandson. So for that I'm grateful that I invested into it. Alright. No, that's too full now. I don't think I can close that. Nope, I have to get a different container. And then I look at stuff like this, and because it's translucent plastic, what's going on? With silver nails, or maybe white nails, or maybe beige nails, do you honestly think I can see? I see more with my hands than I do with my eyes these days, people. Do you know how angry that makes me that I can't see, really, what's inside? Literally, I know there's nails in there. I kind of see them. I put on glasses. I suppose I could see a little more, right? But at the end of the day, I don't know. It's so frustrating. It all kind of looks the same. But these are nice. If you like nails. They're finishing nails of some kind. How do you just stop caring about this stuff when it was like pounded into you with the whip on your back? And you were so under pressure to produce something that was meaningful. As you were being told that you were unimportant, basically, in so many different ways. You know? It comes with emotional baggage. Right? I wouldn't even try to guesstimate how much money I spent investing to do things in this year. Oh my God, these are so small. These are so small. Look how tiny that is. Where am I? Can't see. There. Well, kind of see. Oh, I can't see shit. There. That's a tiny little nail. These are so tiny. Here's some more tiny ones. Depending on what I was doing, sometimes I needed them. Oh, these ones are great. I love these nails. I like them a little bigger than this, though. Alright, do you see that? I like them I like them a little bigger. These ones are really tiny. Like real tiny. I use a lot of these kind when I'm out and about doing things because, you know, tacking up tarps and whatever, right? But it's like I'm going through a mourning process, like a mourning, right? Mourning my life away. Yeah. So I take this homeless situation very serious. Yeah, because that's what happens. I think that's the point of all this. Men, women, families, individuals, whatever, they invest into stuff like this, you know, do what they do to end up losing it all. And then they succumb, many of them, to that muddy water, and they wallow in that muddy water, because once you're in it, you can't get out. What happens is you get just sucked in deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into that muddy water to eventually you drown and basically disappear. Right? And that's what the province of British Columbia, Canada, has slated for me and the next generation of people like me, where we are below a certain income, basically, and are expendable. Oh yeah. As they prop up criminal activity to stimulate the underground economy, as they capitalize off of it themselves. But you know what? Not everyone is dumb. In terms of, not everyone is dumb, people. No. Right. Alright. And then I've got another little container here. Well, a couple of them, really. when I was working out in the yard. Actually, I need these. There's another pair of, these are clippers for trimming, but this is not the pair that I like. Oh, this is the pair that, I love this pair. What I should do is try and figure out how to sharpen the tool. These are so, because I got to get out into the yard soon. Soon. I'm already getting pressure for it. Right? I like my plumber's tape. This is great tape. Alright. More screwdrivers. I'll put them all together. There's a hook. I need that. Ceiling hook. Perfect. Just what I'm looking for. Carpenter pencils. Got a lot of those. This I need because I got to go outside actually probably in the next week or so. It's just been really cold. And kind of cut back on the grapevines before they start springing up. And a few other things. And that's pretty good. But I should probably try and sharpen them. Only I don't know how to sharpen them. Measuring tapes. I love this stapler. Oh, I accused my son. I actually owe him an apology. I accused my son that he never gave me back my stapler. No, I did, Mom. I said, no, you didn't. So I went off and I bought another one. Now I lost that one. But as I'm doing this, I found mine, and I love this one. This is, I can squeeze, well, I could squeeze this one. I don't know if I can squeeze it anymore. But I love that stapler gun. Oh my God. I've had it for like years and years and years and years. And this is a DeWalt. A DeWalt brand. It says DeWalt. Do you see that? That must be the brand. Great stapler. It's never let me down. Nope. Whole box of staples. Gotta do porch repairs. Another measuring tape. Another measuring tape. A mini set of vice grips. Kyrie's such a whiny little kid sometimes. And some pliers so I can empty out this. What's going on? Here's a level. Stop it! Okay, I gotta make room in here somehow, some way where it makes fucking sense. Like, this is in my hall. I don't like it. It's been such a nuisance. But like I said, I didn't have a choice. Okay, you can hear something's going on. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up with this video. It is March 6th of 2024, and what happened here was, I'm reorganizing my paperwork when it comes to anything I do on the internet, right? In terms of passwords and sites and blah, blah, blah. And I'm rewriting it out in dark black letters so I can first of all see it. And then if something happens to me, my kids can just open it up and they'll know everything that I've been connected to for however long, on the many years on the internet. I have passwords, everything. Okay. So I come into Snapchat, right? I did the Instagram, whatever, and I haven't, some of this stuff I just don't log on for a long. Anyway, I couldn't log on into Snapchat because they wanted me to download something onto my phone. Only I use a PC, people, right? So, long story short, I ended up downloading, I thought it was an upgrade for a Snapchat app so that I can log on like I did before with my computer. It gave me a freaking virus. So for the last day and a bit, I've been trying to remove it from my computer, which to one degree or another, I think it's gone now. But then on the other hand, it corrupted my Google Chrome, so I had to remove Google Chrome in terms of uninstall it, and now I'm working with Firefox, the browser. Okay, so besides that point. So here we are. Now, we're going into part 2 of whatever I was doing. What you've seen first before this is me talking on about my tools that I've invested over the years, whether it was because I was doing metal recycling for the nonprofit to secure the federal trademark name, and or to generate income so I could take that income and go off and buy hockey nets, hockey balls, whatever. Not hockey balls, soccer ball. Well, yeah, I even bought little hockey sticks with little plastic hockey pucks and hockey nets and soccer balls. I did, snacks for the kids at Gateway Place. That's when I was working at Gateway Place with those 40 to 60 kids at a time. Because nobody was giving me no money, right? And I was, working on the foundation, trying to secure the trademark. And one of the things was to, do recycling, metal recycling and stuff. So I actually did it myself. And with that came, buying a few extra tools. But I already had tools because of whatever. But besides that point, when I moved into this house, I really had to start buying nails and, skill saws and just the whole 9 yards. All right, and now I'm kind of in a position where I'm expected by the overlords and by my government to get rid of them because I will own nothing and I will not ever live in a house like I'm living in right now because those individuals have corrupted the housing market so much that nothing is affordable unless you stack and pack and stuff people in like sardines, to which we're going to get into this here, okay? Unless, of course, you're an Eleanor Gilding and you go around robbing old people's assets and you're stack and packing your bag so that you can go off and buy more farmland up on the island in Victoria, right? Victoria Island, and hide out like a dirty secret so that you don't get caught with your crimes, even though the government protects people like that, okay? Because we're dealing with classism, a caste system, and a two-tier system here, okay? All right, so let's get back to going on to the next video, to which Deb, who now calls herself Vloggy Nana, but I know her as Deb, or Debbie. All right, we're having a little discussion here through chat. With the last video that I put up, she pointed out that immigrants, sorry, they're not immigrants, they're migrants, asylum seekers, illegal aliens crossing over the border to snag into all levels of government subsidies in order to stay into the United States of America so that they can have a better life. And they're coming in the hundreds of thousands, and it's been like that for years. All right, and now we're getting the backdraft of that with cities being overrun with a financial burden that they can't keep up with as the numbers of people still come in. So, of course, you're getting a modge-podge of services speckled throughout the country of the United States of America, where in Canada, it's a little different. It's not that it's different with the numbers of immigrants coming in, per se, as it is how our governments, more than one, federal, provincial, and municipalities, deal with the problem. Because when they come to Canada, the safety nets are already in place in unison with the agreement that the federal Canadian government made with that outside entity under the immigration migration program, global, quote unquote, right? Where when they come, however they come, whether they're working visas, students, refugees, asylum seekers, illegal immigrants, however they come in, whether they're sponsored, they come in all kinds of different ways here in Canada. So they get listed down on their file. This is how they came. And through that, the safety nets are already built in so that the service provider says, oh, okay, you came in under this, so this is what you qualify. And they're basically immediately hooked up into it. And yes, money is involved. One way or another, money isn't involved. And depending on where they fit within that grid, some of them qualify for startup costs to start businesses. You know, they automatically get their federal child tax benefits in terms of baby bonuses, family allowance, whatever you want to call them. They go on to provincial welfare, if, you know, depending on where they are classified, right? And then if they go on to the provincial welfare, if they have kids, they get the federal baby bonuses, right? And then, of course, because the city is involved, because it's all three levels, because you're dealing with immigrants to one degree or another, that's where the city partners up with local nonprofits if they're not using their own workforce to go out and scout for houses, suites, apartments, whatever, for these incoming immigrants, whether they're 10,000 at a pop, all signed up with subsidies in terms of welfare and da-dee-dee-da, and then forwarded to the food bank depending on what their income is, on where they fit on that line of, you know, qualifying for this or qualifying for that. Well, the cities, you know, they do, people. They scour around looking for housing for them, and then they place them in. And how do I know this? Because my neighbor to the side of me on this side of the house, right, when the shack was shut down, the crack shack, when it was shut down, it was actually heroin. When the heroin shack was shut down, because they were, you know, was there for a year and a half, my neighbors, right? When it shut down and the owner wanted to rent out, the place was vacant, they were doing repairs. I wanted to go inside and see whatever. I asked him if maybe I could rent it because I was still trying to house my daughter, right? I was still trying to house my daughter because she was back to being homeless again. And of course he didn't want that. Anyway, some dude showed up that was a Syrian, that was a city worker, because he told me, right? He says he was a city worker, he worked for the city, he was Syrian, and that he helped his brother to get the upper floor suite after it was renovated from being a heroin shack, to which they never did remove the drywall on the upper floor. I'm trying to figure this out here. Here we go. To which they never did remove the drywall from any wall, really, because that house was like shack top and bottom. That's all it was people in there smoking whatever they were smoking. And anytime that happens, technically homeowners are supposed to bust out the drywalls and replace them. Well, they didn't, because I went in there and I looked around, and I know that they didn't, because the people that owned that house prior to the new owner from over there, what happened was they had this, they were Korean, so they had this stuff that they put on their walls for decoration and installation, and right, so that was all there. That was, none of it was removed. So what I'm saying is, they never removed the toxicity of the environment itself by changing the drywall. What they did is they changed the flooring, they fixed the plumbing because there was plumbing problems in that place, and then they had the city come in with their worker to house another Syrian family. And this was what, in 2020? Something like that? 2019, 2020, 21, in around that time, right? I can't remember. I have to go back into my videos. All right. And they were Syrian. Now keep in mind, in 2016, they already brought 10,000 Syrian into the city of Surrey within a month. How do you think they got housing for that number of people? Well, I don't know. The number of homeless people from basement suites and places like that, upper floors, whatever, apartments started ending up out on the street in terms of our Skid Row, living in tents. That's what happened, people. Okay? That's why I went off and got the little house for Ciera. All right? Got video of that, people. Right? To accommodate immigrants with the assistance of city workers, local nonprofits, provincial government, and federal government. Because as soon as they came in, they hooked up with welfare, they hooked up with the federal baby bonuses with their kids, they got connected into housing ASAP almost immediately, even if it meant having... Hold on a minute. Okay, I had to clear out my, little flash drive inside of this camera because there's not a lot of space to carry on. So I don't know where I was at, but other than to say that I'm expected to get rid of my shit to accommodate another Syrian family, or perhaps it could be Ukrainian, it could be in Afghanistan, it could be somebody from Punjab, India, it could be anybody, right? Some other country, Philippines, doesn't matter. All right, but obviously certain ethnicities are catered to more than others, with Syrians being one of them, and of course the Punjabis, right? The Sikhs, right? Whether they come in fully subsidized by the governments, more than one, or whether they're being sponsored and funneled through the system that way through, I guess you could say, a family member, a long lost rich uncle that owns 10 houses in British Columbia, Canada, and is looking to buy over the next block, right? Which would be another 10 more houses, right? So, okay. So, I was talking about my neighbors and what was going on in that house. And so anyway, I went over there, right? Because, I'm looking for a house again for Ciera because she's homeless and ain't nobody housing Ciera. And, I asked the owner if he would consider letting me rent it. It would be easier for me to keep an eye on it. Blah, blah. You fall off the horse, get back up on the horse. And so this is where this city dude worker showed up and introduced himself. And he said he's looking for a house for his brother, who's Syrian. They're sitting up in Delta. They've been sitting in temporary housing someplace in Delta for a couple months. And now they're looking for long-term placement. And, he wants to rent this house and help out. That's all he said. I'm just helping out. No, people, he wasn't helping out. The city sent him in. Okay? He was working with the city in partnership with the province, as they were bringing in more Syrians in 2020, after they brought in 10,000 Syrians in 2016, and created mass homelessness out on the streets from all the little basement suites and, apartments and main floor of the house or whatever. Because you have to remember, those people next door to me when they came in was 5 kids, all dependent, with 2 adults. To which their family allowance alone at $600 per child times 5 is $3,000 a month, not including their welfare checks on a provincial level, and their GSTs, going to the food bank, and any other little perk that they got because of being an immigrant that they qualified for under a specific portfolio. All right. So they move in, right? Obviously, I didn't get the house. Didn't expect to, but I made an effort to ask, I didn't like my daughter being homeless, right? It was worth a chance. And soon after that, who showed up? Frenchie on his moped. Now, Frenchie is the dude that moved into my little house when I rented it for Ciera, and I did manage to get a whole lot of people off the streets for 9 months, 10 months, 11 months. I think we dragged it out for as long as 11 months before the owner of that house tore it down. Got video on that. But when I first got it and everybody started to move in, everybody's on welfare, and it was a lot of fuckery going on, right? Because they weren't paying their rent, they were changing the rules, they were bullying and doing whatever, and I'm left holding the bag because now the owner wants the rent, and I don't have the rent because people aren't giving me rent because they're either moving in, or I'm thinking so-and-so is moving in, and instead of them moving in, it's all of a sudden somebody else that I don't even fucking know who this person is, took over the whole room, was moving girls into his room, you know, and then the people that were living there that were drug addicts themselves, selling fucking drugs themselves, were complaining that he was in there selling drugs to his girlfriends that he was having sex with, and they wanted to know where their room was, and, you know, and even if they moved in, they weren't giving me rent, and then the landlord's coming to me saying, well, where's my rent? And he wanted $900 for a dicky little freaking 2-bedroom, 3-bed, well, it wasn't even a 3-bedroom rancher, but it had one room where you could have turned it into a 3-bedroom rancher, you know. And he wanted the rent, even though he knew that he had severe plumbing problems and he was going to tear down the place. You know, it was just a matter of, 9 months, 8 months, everybody was going to be evicted back out onto the streets. But in my mind, I'm like, well, at least I get my daughter off the streets for 8 months, people, right? Asking me for rent, and then along comes Frenchie, and Frenchie says, well, here, fuck these people that don't want to pay, this revolving door in and out, just here, I'll give you X amount of dollars in advance to pay for the rent so that you got that covered and you don't have to worry about the riffraff going in and out. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, let's do that, because at this point I can't control nothing in that fucking house. So he gave me X amount of dollars. I forwarded it to the landlord in terms of, okay, that part's covered. And then over a couple of months, they ended up going into a mutiny and pushed me out completely. At some point, they just wouldn't even let me go into that house, because they turned it into a shack. That's what happened, right? They turned it into a shack. And they ran it to the ground, but I was there to the very bitter end with the landlord. I never turned my back on that landlord. I always made sure that he got his money as best as I could. At one point, they stopped giving me money and said that they were giving it to him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. So the house was eventually evicted. The few remaining people that were left, that were living in the fucking back under a tree, under a tarp, I tried to house. I went house hunting, looking for them, right? We went house hunting, right? But nobody would rent to me, right? They wouldn't rent to me because I was dealing with homeless people. Because, I'm still trying to find a house for Ciera. Eventually they had to leave. That's when Wesley died. Wesley was one of the last people at that little house. He went out, went to some gas station out here. A group of men jumped him, beat the shit out of him so bad that, I don't know, he went back to the little house. I guess he had a concussion of some kind. Went back to the little house, hung up his shirt on his hook, because he was helping me to, keep everybody out, because we didn't want it to turn into a squatter place, as the landlord was making preparation to tear it down so he could build his monster home, basically, for himself. That's what it was all about. And before people would move in, after everybody left, Tanya and Wesley stayed behind, boarded everything up, kept a little area for themselves in the living room area, kept the squatters out, protected the property, basically, for the landlord, because it bought them a little time to have a little roof over their head until they were back out onto the streets, thanks to the city of fucking Surrey, the province of British Columbia, Canada. All right? And, I'm running around looking house after house after house, including next door, asking if I can rent it, because I've got people that need housing like ASAP, being turned away, right? And, of course, Frenchie moved on until those Syrians next door moved in with the assistance of the city worker, who tried to say that who he was housing was his brother, which was a bunch of crock. No, they were just working with the province, bringing in more Syrians. They never stopped in 2016. They're still bringing them in, right? As they're forcing out families like mine, keeping the homeless, basically, if they're not being lured off to their deaths and they just up and disappear, or illegally harvested for their organs under suspicious circumstances, right? We know the drill. And so they move in, and who do I see sitting around a table as all the Muslims, because they're Syrians, they're Muslims, are having one big happy party, right? With them driving up with their RVs and, their Subarus and all this other shit, right? In their glory, because they're all reconnecting and congregating. And there's that moped with Frenchie sitting in the middle of the group. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, and he's looking at me and I'm looking at him. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, now we know. Now we know. So you were, and he was selling drugs, people, on long-term disability, driving around in a fucking moped, a maroon-colored one at that, acting like a kingpin in the neighborhood. As the city is conspiring one way or another to put the whip on the back like people like me so that we get evicted from our houses so that they can free up a house for another family that they know are going to get subsidized federally, provincially, and municipality, and not including any local nonprofit in the neighborhood. Whether it's specifically catered to their needs in terms of, well, I'm a Muslim, I'm this, I'm that, or just general, like local food banks, right? Like this, okay? So the reason I'm saying this, Deb, is because there's a lot of backroom deals going on with this migration replacement program that is going on in both our countries that we don't necessarily get to see unless just by chance, by default, we just happen to show up and then put the dots together, okay? Right? If I wasn't looking for housing for my desperate daughter that was homeless and being exploited out on the streets, I would never have went next door looking to see if I could rent that place. Never mind meet the dude that basically got in the Syrian family that took out housing away from the Canadian-born people. Right? As the landlord is jacking up the rent, where it was, maybe $1,200, all of a sudden now you're looking at $2,200 for a main floor of a 2-bedroom old bungalow, right? Right? But you see, the Syrians, they don't have to worry about it though, because the government has jimmied the books through their different portfolios with their subsidies that the rent is covered. And that's why the immigrants, migrants, asylum seekers, whatever, are the preferred Canadian citizen now, because they're guaranteed income to pay the landlords the rent, right? And then once their incomes are fixed, it's game on. Every other homeowner, in terms of a property owner that is a landlord or an overlord, adjusts their rents to meet the market value, even though it's corrupt, to continue the process as more immigrants come in, filling in the housing that does become available. But there's a cost to that. Shimei is dead. Uncle John is medically kidnapped and dead. Gone, robbed of his assets. Ciera was lured to her death as I'm running around fucking Surrey looking for housing for her, being turned away because the city is too busy housing immigrants that like to sell drugs in the fucking community as they drive freaking mopeds and sit on welfare. Been there, done that. Witnessed it for myself. He hooks up with his Syrian buddies, and what do you think's going on? Oh, give it a few years. Won't be long before they're in a monster house, living as a multi-family unit. Yeah. Terrorizing the next freaking Canadian-born family. We are targeted in our houses without us even realizing we are being targeted. Until finally enough shit happens to you and your family and you actually figure it out. Well, this is what's happening in the United States. It's just being in a different kind of way. It's not so mainstreamed. Oh, you're from here? Sure, no prob. Here's your community. We've already set it up in Surrey. There's 25,000 of you there in the last 4 years. Well, maybe 50,000 now. Don't worry, you won't be alone. We'll just target this house over here and make it so that family becomes half dead and broken and desperate, and we'll convince them that they have to get rid of their shit because they're never going to be able to rent another house like the one that they live in, so they better get ready to get the fuck out because we've got a Syrian family moving in. And if you don't want to move out, well, we'll just pick off another family member until there's nothing left. It's not as brazen like that yet in the United States of America. Right? Because they didn't come in under that immigration migration program where federal, provincial, and municipal parliaments had the freaking 5 kids, automatic qualification for child family bonus. That's $3,500 a month, right? Every month from the federal government. Now you're a 7 family unit under the province with the welfare. You're getting 15, 17, maybe $18,000 a month in welfare payments from the province, not including any little extra perks we'll throw in there because you're an immigrant. Right? Right? As the city is running around scoping out the housing for you, making sure it's available because they're required by law, because the federal government said so and so did the provincial government, so the fucking city's going to do what the city needs to do in order to make that housing available. Well, all the overlords are paying attention to the politics around it and the numbers coming in going ching, 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 adding it up in their heads and then saying, well, fuck $1,200 a month. We can charge $2,500 a month for the same fucking shit. Because the governments, more than one, made it so. Easy peasy. Right? It's set in stone. And then you get a neighbor crossing over saying, oh, nice to meet you, neighbor. Where'd you come from? Oh, Syria. Okay. Well, I'm having a bit of a problem with my yard. I'm being harassed by the fucking city. You got 2 teenage boys here. Do you think that maybe they can come fucking cut my grass? I'll pay them $50 fucking each. But no. They can't do that because the federal government, whatever fucking government, provincial government, municipal government, they all said no, the boys can't work. They're 15 fucking years old. They just got to Canada. They can't work for a fucking year, even for $50 each at a pop cutting fucking grass. Yeah, as Frenchie in the maroon moped shows up and starts partying with everybody next door, bragging on about how much money he's made off of people like Ciera, who never got housing. Why, people? So, Deb, I speak from experience. Okay? You said that in the United States of America, because the rumor is, and we're going to get onto it in a minute, right? Fake news, whatever's being reported on YouTube or wherever, that immigrants are now receiving $2,000 a month payments, if not up to $20,000 a month, depending on the state and the program that's trying to be built in, to which at some point it's all being done through cash apps on the phone, debit cards or right? Where eventually, whatever it is that they're trying to do, they're going to bring in that CBC, where it's like remove cash from society and everything's being done through that system where we live in a cashless society and everybody is being tracked through their purchases and they won't have a choice. And of course, using immigrants desperate for money is the first place to start to implement that program. Okay? But Deb seems to think that no illegal immigrant, migrant, whatever, that's in the here and now at this point, crossing over the border, going into the United States, is receiving any sort of cash assistance through a debit program, whether it's a card or on cell phones, because they're all coming in with cell phones, like a Cash App. We don't have Cash Apps in Canada, right? Only in the States. She seems to think that is fake news. That's not happening, right? Because she has her spouse who is an immigrant, doesn't qualify for that program. And if there was such a program, he'd be able to tap into it. This is where I'm like, not everything meets the eye. Just because he doesn't qualify doesn't mean it doesn't exist or isn't starting to exist. Or, right? Because they're dealing with the situation in the here and now. Right? Right? They're building in the system now with the ones coming in. Whereas in Canada, the system is already in place. It's a guaranteed slam dunk that they're going to get all levels of assistance, all governmental levels of assistance, the minute they get off the fucking airplane. Even if it means removing Canadian-born people off the planet. And then trying to cover up illegal activity as they do it. All right. So, whether she's right or wrong, or whether I'm right or wrong, I think whatever is going on, we don't know everything. We're being told one thing, is something else is happening in the background. And it's going to take a few years to really figure out what the hell is going on. Just like it took me a few years, and some of it's by chance, right? You don't even expect to figure it out. It just comes to you because you realize what the hell you're up against, right? Because you have to go through the walk before you can even fucking talk about it, and sometimes, right? In terms of that. You know, why are you hunting on me so hard? Putting that fucking whip on my back for the yard for something that's not even my fucking responsibility, right? As you're running fucking shacks and all this stupid shit next door to me, right? You know, and then just the whole 9 yards, right? Bringing in more and more immigrants that you can't even freaking house as you're raising the rent to house them, not because they can afford it, because hell, they're not even allowed to fucking work, people. It's because the governments are making it so that they can afford it, so that it can corrupt the low overlords in partnership with organized religion and organized corrupt politicians to overinflate the housing market to further push out families like mine. And that's why I was showing you my tools. What, does my landlady expect me just to throw away my fucking tools now because they're not needed no more? Well, why the hell did I need to even buy them in the first fucking place and give up my life to be thrown out onto the streets for nothing? Forget about going blind. Regardless. Well, this is what's happening. It's happening in Canada and it's happening in the United States. Same system, just being done a little different, that's all. We're so-called legitimate about it. Well, in the States, they're still scrambling around, Mickey and Mousing, and trying to piece it together. Where it's already a fucking slam dunk for these immigrants here in Canada. It's a given. They're the preferred citizen. They get treated like royalty. Seriously. Well, everybody else, if you're white, black, or native, don't want to work. We're the scum of the fucking earth. We're useless. We're lazy. Yeah, okay, we're lazy. Right. Dr. Barr, I guess he wasn't fucking lazy when he was taking out my daughter's organs illegally and selling her eggs on the black market. Okay. Don't talk to me about being fucking lazy. Alright, so let's just read this and get on with it. I understand what you were saying. But I don't think everything that is going on countrywide, whether in the U.S. or in Canada, is meeting the eye. Regarding your spouse, he isn't in the current loop of illegal immigrants flooding the U.S. in the here and now. So, of course, those people crossing over illegally, in the U.S. in the here and now. So, of course, he wouldn't qualify for any benefits, whether temporary or not. See, that's the difference between Canada and in here. You come, you need, you get. Right? And not only do you get, but you've got the city workers out there scoping out the fucking available rental markets to make sure you also get housing. Even if it means throwing people out onto the streets. Even if it means murder by fentanyl to remove people from the house so that the house can't sustain itself because it's a drop in the income and the family becomes suicidal because they lost a loved one. Whether through medical kidnapping, child illegal apprehension, illegal evictions, or fucking straight up fucking murder. He wouldn't qualify for any benefits, whether temporary or not, being made available to those people crossing over illegally. Okay? City municipalities are trying to curb an explosion of street crime from manifesting out of desperation as the numbers of illegal immigrants continue to flood into said geographical areas. Well, yeah, same thing out here. That's why we got Frenchie on his fucking moped sitting on welfare, collecting long-term disability, slanging fucking heroin in the community. It's controlled. It's controlled. As he hooks up with his Syrian brothers, you know, to network out so that they can buy their fucking Canadian monster house dream and be the next generation of overlords in partnership with a corrupt government. Providing money, housing, healthcare, etc. is only one way to control human behavior actions when large numbers of people are cornered into desperation. So this is where not everything we see or hear meets the eye. As I am sure there are a lot of backroom deals going on all levels of government with an end goal to replace the American people, just like what is happening in Canada. I use my neighbors as an excuse to justify what I have to say, because that's real life. It really fucking happened. I was there. And I have to deal with it. And that's why I'm facing homelessness when I leave this house. And I'm expected to give away my tools and every other fucking thing I own, regardless of whether I'm going blind or not. Because my landlady told me so. She thinks she's doing me a favor by warning me as to what's coming. And if I don't get it from her, I get it from someplace else. Because that's not where the money is. The money is trafficking fucking Syrians, Afghanistans, Ukrainians, Punjabis, Sikhs, Chinese, Filipinos, Cambodians. The whole 9 yards. Okay. Now that that's over with. Now, the reason I did that, I want to end this video soon. I want to show you how the backroom deals work without us fucking even realizing it. Okay? And this is where we're going to go here. I think it's here. Yes. Middle class gets only rentals. This is done by... I said I was going to do this. I had to hunt for it. I found it. The Canadian Shield. Alright? Now this aligns with, and that was the post I was going to read. So I will make sure. So the post is there, but just because I see it, oh no, it must be visible because somebody gave me a thumbs up. So it didn't get shadow banned. I'm surprised. But we'll read it, okay? Because I said I wanted to read it. So we know that YouTube didn't shadow ban that post. Alright. So in the meantime, this is not a very, well, 19 minutes and 19 seconds. I don't know. It is what it is. What do you call it? I did the BC budget. Alright, and I'm going to link in the BC budget, those two parts, into this video, into the description box. Because province of British Columbia, Canada, New Democratic Party, came out with, under their budget, this program, scheme, whatever you want to call it, to subsidize middle-class income people with their rents, with the prospect of being able to at some point purchase what they're living in based on the qualifications, all those little dots in order that are provided for by the federal government, the provincial government, and perhaps the municipal government, so the numbers all add up, where all of a sudden they qualify to become a homeowner to something that they're being subsidized for as a middle-class income renter. Okay? Because if they don't do that, people, I am telling you right now, they're going to be in my fucking shoes. They're going to be in the American shoes, moving out of their fucking houses, their rentals, whatever it is that they're living in right now, as they're being forced out of their housings to accommodate more immigrants under other programs, right? In their RVs, their trucks, their vehicles, their tents, like the Americans are happening to them right now. In the numbers. We don't have those numbers yet. So before that becomes blaring in the government's face, I don't care what fucking government in Canada, they're going to try and prevent it from happening. Because it's already happened in the United States of America. They got fucking highways, RV after RV after RV, truck with RV, with a fucking little car, with another RV after RV, with a freaking camper, with another fucking, just whole miles of homeless people living on a highway in their in their vehicles with no place to go. Well, the Canadian government doesn't want that to happen to the middle class in Canada. Neither does British Columbia, Canada. So they came in with this, well, we'll just subsidize, we'll start a new subsidized, a BC housing subsidized program specifically designed to prevent middle-class people from being evicted from their fucking homes. But fuck the Judies. Fuck the Judies. Fuck you. You will own nothing. You will have nothing. You will never be able to rent another house like this, so the faster you can get rid of your shit, the better off it is. But not the middle class. However that's determined. No. They get 30% of their rent fucking paid for by the province. But it gets better. Oh, yeah. Because there was a backroom deal. And this is why I'm doing this right now. Because what this guy reports on is Trudeau, the federal government, stepped up out of the plate from the back fucking room and sprung it on the public that he's going to support this program and match dollar for dollar whatever the province of British Columbia, Canada, is going to invest into this program to make it successful so that those people don't end up out on the streets, living in their campers, living in their RVs, living in their cars, living in fucking tents. Yeah, I know you love that, Amari. Amari loves that. He does. Don't you, Amari? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You, my little Houdini baby. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you get my point. Before the government allows that to happen like it's happening right now, it has been happening in the United States of America, they're going to build in their little program. Just like they built in their little programs to, make sure that Ciera was out on the streets so that they could house the fucking Syrian fucking family next door with Frenchie leading the pack with his dope deals, stacking and packing the fucking money. With the assistance of the city, workers that is, to make sure that there was a house to even rent, as the little Cieras get lured to their deaths and laundered through black market illegal organ harvesting income to sustain themselves, people. But this is why I want you to see this. When I did the BC budget, did they even say that the federal government was going to match them dollar for dollar for this program that they decided to build for British Columbia, Canada? Where did this program come from? All of a sudden, out of the fucking hat. Never mind the federal government investing $160 million to match The province, or whatever it is. We'll find out. Let's listen. I think you get my point.
I'm here to make sense of the madness, and we got all kinds of it going on with the House of Commons closed for the week.
Okay, let's listen.
Justin Trudeau is running around the country trying to spend everybody's money on housing that he should have been.
Trudeau is running around the country trying to spend everybody's money for housing, okay?
Worried about 10 years ago. I think that we need to poke the holes where the holes lie. It's not what he said, it's what he doesn't say. So let's have a listen to it. I'll give you my 2 cents. I know it was a couple days ago, but I've been busy, and this will be the first time that I've had an opportunity to talk about it.
Okay, this was a couple of days ago. When was this uploaded? 12 days ago. When did they do the BC budget? I don't know. All I know is the province of British Columbia, Canada, didn't mention that the federal government was going to match them dollar for dollar for this program that they took credit for. That's specifically targeting the middle class to prevent them from being the next generation of homeless people like they are in the United States of America.
So let's jump right in.
We need to continue to step up in a coordinated way. BC actually was the canary in the coal mine for the problems we're seeing across the country around housing affordability. Home prices here started going up decades ago, and people around the country...
Okay, BC. Notice how he brought up BC. Was the canary in the coal mine. Yeah, no wonder why I'm a freaking bag of nerves. Anyway, I was listening to Canadian Prepper like a day ago, 2 days ago, and he slipped out as blah, 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 right, that in 2020 it costs. He said, if you were to buy a house now in March of 2024, it would cost you 80% more than what it costed in 2020. What is that telling you, people? And that's right across the board. Right? It didn't get there by itself. It was manufactured to be that way.
Started to notice, but a lot of them, and governments in particular, ignored those warnings. Inaction by successive governments of all orders, investors buying up homes meant for middle-class families, and old-school zone...
Yeah, buying up homes meant for middle-class families or just families like mine, so that they can tear them down house after house after house after house, bring in their fucking stack and pack buildings with their plastic pipes and little fucking metal clips, right? Perhaps the basement might leak or not, depends, depends on what they want for the neighborhood. If they want to flood out all the fucking houses in the neighborhood, they'll make it so that the basement fucking leaks, and the city will never do anything about it because it will be mission accomplished after the houses that have been flooded, the foundations are so rotten, they have no choice but to tear them down because of water damage. Right? There was drainage problem in my backyard when I moved in. I spent 2-3 years working on building in drainage pipes with rocks and everything in my backyard to try and distract away from the fucking water that was pooling over from that property that they built something on. And the reason it was draining out then was because it had an old farmhouse on it. They wanted to keep the people out. That's when the walnut trees were there. So they busted up the fucking pipes in there and made it so it saturated. It was running 24/7. So there was always water running through the freaking alley, and it was accumulating in my yard. That's what I moved into. That's what I had to go out and buy fucking tools for and material for. That's what I fucking gave my life up for what, 2, 3, 4 years, building in fucking drainage pipes with rocks and liners and digging holes and transplanting glass and just to control what was going on in my own damn backyard, to only now in 2023 having my neighbor's fucking trees fall flat on their freaking face after being full-grown, mature trees because of stupid wood rot, because of the water that now drains from that property that initially was draining from a freaking old farmhouse, because that's the mission, people. They want the foundations in the whole fucking block to be so oversaturated with water so that at some point the foundations of the houses become compromised, and there's even more excuse to tear them down.
Laws that didn't let communities grow in ways that kept up with Canada have brought us to a tough spot here in BC and right across the country. An ambitious and fundamentally practical new...
So he came to BC. I need to figure out when. Just recently, after they brought out their fucking budget to address this new and improved program to save the middle class from facing homelessness like Ciera. Like my family, without being murdered to hide that dirty secret.
New housing program that is going to turn underused public and non-profit land into a...
Okay, so they're branching out now. Now keep in mind, they're still going from district to district, block from block, buying up 5 to 7 houses at a time, tearing them all down at one time to build something at one time. From block to block, from district to district, right across the freaking province. Obviously, some are being done faster areas than others, but it's everywhere I go, people. When I get a chance to get out and fucking get into different districts, whether it's going downtown to the children's hospital and I'm looking and I see all these boarded up houses, beautiful houses being boarded up, you know what's going on. You know what's going on. If I go further into Surrey, you know what's going on. Okay? Okay? He's trying to say this is, what? A new what? New what? New something new? No, this isn't fucking new. How did he jump on this bandwagon so freaking quick if it's so new? No, it was something stewing in a pot. They've been stirring it around for a while, tweaking this, tweaking that, and now they're just introducing it to the mainstream.
And fundamentally practical new housing program that is going to turn underused public and non-profit land into affordable rental housing for the middle class.
Okay, this is what that person was talking about when she was reading her budget. She listed that. She listed buildings, building on top of buildings. So you've got a building. Now you're going to start building on top of the building. Like a rec center. You got a rec center, it has a flat building. Well, now they're going to take the rec center and build housing above it. Yeah, okay. And then they're going to turn it into middle class subsidized housing. Middle class subsidized housing. Because that middle class is being forced out of their houses. Yeah. To build stack and pack fucking buildings, row housing, in terms of townhouses, that type of thing, depending on what the city wants for, coding and this and that. Or monster home after monster home after monster home after monster home. So it becomes a gated ethnic community. So it becomes a gated ethnic community. With a few fucking renters in the bottom suites. Whether they're the servants to the overlord above them, or whether they're just lucky and got a fucking place that they probably can't afford to live in, but they have no choice. So they have to sacrifice other things just to be able to have a roof over their head.
With over 20 different sites.
As that income is being supplemented to, for the one that owns the house. It becomes a supplemental income.
Where they will take parking lots, underused land around healthcare facilities, potential buildings on...
Underused land, potentially with healthcare. Andre, are you boiling water there for me?
Yes.
Well, just hold on a minute, please. Okay.
Top of daycares, and work with partners to build apartments that meet the needs of middle-class Canadians and their families.
And work with partners to meet the needs of the middle-class family. No, they're trying to prevent the middle-class family living in RVs, campers, cars, trucks, tents, in the large numbers like what's happening in the United States of America currently right now, as the middle class is being wiped out, basically. Because they themselves can't even afford the fucking rent. And that's why my landlady is so insistent that I will never be able to afford the rent, because she knows that the middle class can't even afford the rent. And I'm certainly not middle class. I wonder why. It's called manufactured poverty.
Part of that is working hand in hand with First Nations. But let's remember that these won't be your typical tiny one-bedroom units that have been popping up across downtowns across the country. These will be units of all sizes.
Right? Your typical one bedroom. Yeah. These will be units like
including up to 3 or 4 bedrooms.
3 or 4 bedroom, quote unquote, apartment. Yeah. And because they're new, and if they're putting them at 3 to 4 bedrooms per new apartment, you're looking at $4,000 and up per month in rent. Well, the old apartments that are 3 bedrooms are renting for $1,900 and up, and they come with bed bugs, mice, cupboard bugs, cockroaches, and a whole bunch of angry people that can't afford the overinflated rent for something that used to cost $800 a month. But not over the last several years. No. So, if you can afford $4,000 a month and over, you get something new. If you can't, you get all the bugs, mice, everything else that comes with it for $2,000 a month. I can't afford $2,000 a month in rent. But my landlady wants to raise my rent. Well, if she had her way, she'd ask for $3,500 a month. But in the last 8 months, my rent went up by $200. And even then, I get gaslighted by saying, well, you know my neighbor over there, the one that run the shack there and then moved in the fucking Frenchie with the Syrians, right, so that the drugs could still be sold off in the neighborhood and people can get rich as the poor are lured off to their death and add into that bag of cash, right, for body parts, right? I need a bit more sugar, please.
What did you say?
Hold on a minute. Okay, so we know that he's scheming to build new apartment buildings, 3 to 4 bedrooms, stack and packs, basically, with their playgrounds on the roof. I can almost guarantee you that, right? Oh, you might have a little courtyard here and there in the middle of these buildings, like Gateway Place used to have for the children in that complex. But again, you're looking at $2,000 a month, approximately, for a 3-bedroom full of bugs and mice and a bunch of poor crazy people running around barely being able to survive. Okay? Been there. I lived there for 3 years, people. I know. And as it is, I can't afford neither place by myself with my grandkids because of manufactured poverty. Never mind move into another house to accommodate my family as is because of it not being affordable. Because the property developers and the overlords are too busy accumulating mass wealth in partnership with these types of individuals.
The kind of places where families can grow and they can call home. And they'll be made available to families based on their income on a community-by-community basis, truly targeted for the middle class. This is a demonstration of how you build homes for people to live in, not just to pad investor portfolios. BC also recognized that this housing crisis is urgent.
So, how did he jump on this bandwagon? This is what I'm saying. How did he jump on this bandwagon so quick? As the NDP brought it out in the budget, because they were cutting backroom deals before it was even mentioned to the public. That's why, people.
So as part of this program, they're going to speed up construction, cutting timelines by more than half. Exactly.
Yeah, they're going to speed up construction. NDP, last year budget, said the same thing. They're going to give the cities more power to pass applications for the property developers, quote unquote, to harass me and people like me, including my neighbor who's 70 years old and has been living in her house for 20 years, and so on and so on and so on and so on down the block, to kick us out. Right? To kick us out so that they can build their 1 or 2 bedroom stacking packs with those plastic pipes and little steel clamps. Can't say it enough. Right? The only difference is my neighbor over there happens to have a little bit of money, so that might put her in a class of being middle class in terms of that asset, assuming she doesn't get medically kidnapped and it's apprehended and seized from the Public Guardian and Trust Association, and everything goes to court fighting over the money as they lock her away like a dirty secret so that they can sustain that part of the economy, right? Got to employ people. If there's nobody to fight over money over, then they don't have a job, so they have to say, sorry, you can't go back home, you broke your ankle, we're afraid you're going to fall and break your hip because you're 72 years old, and you know, it's not like you can live by yourself, and we don't have assisted living, so you know, we're looking at telling you as a social worker, like they told John, you're going to go someplace else by any means necessary, even if you want to go home. It doesn't matter what you want, it's what they want. Okay? I'm just saying, but she might be one of the lucky ones. She might be able to qualify for this program that scheme that they're bringing in, because what assets, what little assets she does hold will open the door for her to be further subsidized for that new accommodations that's being built specifically to subsidize the middle class. Whereas I get nothing. My family gets nothing. It doesn't matter. We get nothing. Right? We will never have another house like this again. Never mind a fucking decent 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment. No. It ain't happening. What we get is, in another back room, how to get rid of us. How they can plot and scheme with their fake investigations, their cover-up of murder, their cover-up of medical kidnappings, or whatever, or we get evicted illegally, whatever tactic that they want to use to try and get rid of us, they will use it. And that's what my videos show you. Because I'm not an isolated case. Neither is Uncle John. Neither is Shimei, murdered by fentanyl. Hell no.
Exactly the kind of visionary, progressive housing solution that people need.
No, it's a cover-up. It's a cover-up for all the houses in the province being tore down to build in subpar buildings with subpar materials to capitalize off of exploiting the preferred clientele when it comes to a citizen in Canada that gets off a boat or an airplane through their various subsidies when they're not being hired out like a fucking Dr. Barr to do the dirty deeds of a corrupt government with their employees.
BC is providing $2 billion in low-cost loans so we can...
BC is providing $2 billion in low-cost loans.
Build more homes for the middle class.
So now they're propping up the property developers and lending out money to them so they can go buy more property, tear them down, kick out the people. It depends. If you're middle class, you'll get assistance. If you're poor, get in line, wait for regular BC housing, to which you'll be put into some building with a whole bunch of fucking bugs, more than likely. It depends. But on average, that's what you get. If you're real poor, a single person, you get a module, which is like a tiny home from a container that's been broken up into little containers within containers. Right? Or you might get some tall high-rise that's classified as BC housing that's completely bug-infested from top to bottom, even though it's 30 floors high. Seriously, people.
Faster. The federal government is now doubling that funding, putting...
So, the province is investing $2 billion to lend out money for property developers, as they've already gave the cities permission to pass applications to tear down houses faster, to rip up trees faster, to scope out rec centers so that they can build housing on top of rec centers, as well as build housing next to healthcare facilities faster, wherever they can find available space faster, right? Because that's what brings them income into their fiscal budgets, where they're gambling that they might come in with a surplus, okay, based on this activity. So now we've got the federal government all of a sudden, out of the blue, within 3 weeks, matching a $2 billion slush fund. So now it's a $4 billion slush fund for the dickheads in my community who want to destroy my family, to get us out faster and to destroy my family faster, so that now that they can accommodate faster the middle class before they have nobody left to kick out, because families like mine are dead and gone by now, right? So of course middle class are next in line, and before they have them flood out into the streets with their RVs, fucking cars, campers, whatever, like they are already happening in the United States of America, they're gonna try and cover it up with their scheme. And to provide safe housing for the middle class immigrants, the preferred citizens that are now residents of Canada. Like my Syrian neighbors next door.
Another $2 billion from the federal government's apartment construction loan program into BC Builds. This will support, at a minimum...
See, they don't need to invest into monster homes, because that's a given. Because the people that are running the corruption are the ones that build the monster homes for them fucking selves. Uh-huh. That's what they do. Yeah.
Minimum 8,000 to 10,000 new homes over the next few years, with more to come as even more land...
8,000 to 10,000 new homes in the next few years, even though we're getting almost 100,000 immigrants every year coming into British Columbia, Canada. It doesn't match up. If we had 83,000 come into British Columbia, Canada, did I not read that? Or was that, oh, maybe that was all of Canada. No, I think that was just fucking British Columbia, Canada. In 2023, or was it 2022? I'd have to go back. And it was 83,000 that moved to BC as the white people are disappearing, basically. Oh, sure, you still see a few natives running around, right? They need the natives, though, right? Because there's politics around that, too, you know. And as for the blacks, well, they make good house cleaners and, you know, those kind of things, right? For the most part. Oh, you might get a black doctor here or there, or a black nurse here or there, but that's only for, you know, being diverse. But outside of that, what do you think happens to the majority of the blacks out here? They become targeted for their body parts, people. Okay? Let's be real about it, okay? Oh, there goes chasing the mouse.
Is secured.
Okay, so that's the first segment. That's next is the four. I got 4 questions from the reporters that are all softball. What I want you to hear is how he talked about the middle class renting for their entire lives. That's not middle class. That at best is lower middle class.
Now, what he's trying to do is prevent the middle class ending up out on the streets, living in freaking on highways a mile long with vehicle after vehicle with no place to go after those people that gave away their tools had no place to go from losing their homes and not being able to move into another house that was affordable.
The dream of the middle class is to own their own land, own their own house, so that ultimately they don't have that monthly payment. What he's describing is taking tax dollar money, giving it to land developers so they can build those giant monolithic behemoths that you see behind them.
Yeah, just over there, right? Still sits practically empty. Wait, I'm going to walk you by it with the fucking lights off at 7 o'clock at night. Nobody home. Yep. Yep. And then one day it's going to rain and I'll go out there with my camera and I'll let you hear the fucking sump pump as it's pumping out water from the basement that's flooding all over the freaking neighborhood and killing my neighbor's trees and putting her house into jeopardy with having one of those trees crash into her roof because of root rot because of that building.
1,000 units per building. And then he wants people to pay into that for their entire lives, making those friends of his, those upper echelon friends of his, rich beyond imagination. The idea is to make affordable homes that people can buy. Not that they can pay rent into a big giant...
Only certain people can have affordable homes. Monster homes, that is. Only certain kind of people can have that, people. And there comes a huge price around that. It's not just simply, oh, we worked hard. Yeah, okay. I know about working fucking hard. I told you, I've been dealing with fucking Punjabis ever since I've been a kid. Hindus, whatever, okay, in terms of being landlords. And what you have to go through as a tenant, sometimes just to be able to even live in their houses so that they can get rich. As they critique you, gaslight you, one way or another, to try and suggest that somehow they're hard workers, but you're not. That's why I gave up my life for you in your fucking yard. And now I'm forced to give away my fucking tools because I have no place to take them and never mind use them. Yeah, That's why I showed you my tool part. It's not even about going blind and I can't use them no more. Soon. It's the fact that my son perhaps might not even be able to use them because he won't be able to go to the next location and afford to rent anything where he can use them. So he will be faced with the same dilemma. Oh, I don't want to throw away Mom's tools. I actually like these tools. Mom used them. It makes me feel close to Mom, even though Mom's not here no more. She was a hard worker. Even people around her decided to say, no, she wasn't. I was there. I seen my mom use those tools. I don't want to have to be forced to give away my tools because there's no place for me to live where I can use those tools. So it's not about going blind and I can't use them. It's the fact of what these conspires to amass wealth for themselves with forked tongue are doing to society in general after they come from countries that they basically destroyed before they left. Because if their countries were so fucking good, being that they're such good people, why don't they stay in their own country? No, they got to come here and destroy this country in order to convince themselves that somehow they're better with their gated communities.
So you're going to lend money at a discount, taxpayer money at a discount to people who are going to build buildings. And then 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, who knows what they'll do with the rent? They might shoot that rate up again.
Of course they will. We know that. We know that.
Let's remember that part of the housing problem that we got. People
will get evicted because they won't be able to afford it. All it takes is one... Oh, okay, let's just go. Let's just carry on. We're dealing with the middle class here now.
Going on right now is because all of these cities have no caps on the rent. They have no...
Even if they do. British Columbia, Canada, under the NDP, brought in a cap of you're not allowed to charge no more than, 2 or 3% of the total dollar amount of what the current rent is. Well, my landlady is never fucking satisfied with that. And not only is she not satisfied with that, but she's got to come in fucking 7, 8 months later and ask for more money. $200 in 8 months. Yeah. And I still get the feel that they just, are not happy. they're never fucking happy. Because it plays on my feelings, people, because I'm not a bad person, but they make me feel like I'm a bad person because of fucking money. But then it kind of erodes on my... Hold on a minute. Okay, so before we go any further with this fella here, you heard my phone ring. Landline. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. Anyway, I just want to touch base on this situation here now. I've mentioned in the past in my previous videos, right? A friend of mine, right? I'm a Mama Lynn kind of thing situation here, right? My daughter's friend, right? She ended up having to leave her. She was forced out of her living accommodations, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, she asked social services to help her with temporary housing because she couldn't find affordable housing. They housed her for a little while in a hotel, but of course told her she needed to get into women's shelters. So over a period of 2 or 3 months, she was going between different women's shelters from Vancouver to Richmond to Surrey when she wasn't in a hotel looking for housing. The Ministry of Children and Family Development did not provide any housing outside of giving her a piece of paper to say, well, you can call this place, this place, this place, and, ask to go into an emergency women's shelter until such time maybe you might find housing, but you have to find the housing for yourself. This is what I'm faced with as well when my time comes. Right? Anyway, they ended up closing her file before she even found housing, so they basically abandoned her in a woman's shelter. Right? Finally, she found something. It's $1,700 a month. It's in the bottom of a house that was built in 1975, which is an old bungalow, right? With the UN soldiers above her, in other words, a group of Punjabi men. That's all that lives above her on the main floor, because that's what they do out here. There's 4 or more that live on the main floor, while she gets a small 2-bedroom basement of this old bungalow that was built in 1975. $1,700 a month for a 2-bedroom basement suite that a washing machine apparently was supposed to be replaced before she moved in because it was broken. The bathroom floor is literally rotten and needed to be repaired before she moved in. It has mouse droppings, and ants, and all this other crap that needed to be dealt with. Anyway, when it came time to move in, she noticed that basically nothing has happened. She hasn't had a washing machine, and she's got 3 children, people. One is a baby, right? Her name's Rhea. She helps me with the court, right? When I'm working on court stuff. Okay. But she's been under a lot of stress living in women's shelters, right? Because no affordable housing, okay? So she's been living there for about a month now, because I just got off the phone saying, well, how's it going? How's your new place? Blah, 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 blah. And she's saying, well, like, I might have to take them to the Landlords and Tenancy Act branch because they refuse to fix anything. Well, apparently they are now bringing supposedly a new washing machine. But their solution for the rotten floor in the bathroom is to cover it with a rug. How many years did it take for my bathroom in the basement to be repaired correctly? Years, people. With that burden basically on me to find the workers to do it on the cheap without adequate resources, to which extended the problem to where finally, years later, it's somewhat decent now, right? Just saying. Okay. They want her to take a rug and cover up a rotten bathroom floor. I said, well, that's gross. And I'm saying, well, why won't they change the bathroom floor? Oh, well, because of city code, they don't have a work permit. I said, that's crap. Because when my landlords finally had to deal with that fucking pipe, to which still clogs up every now and then. So they never did solve the problem. You know, they ended up ripping up the cement floor, and you know, and they got into the, you know, the joints of it to change that, right? Because after they scoped it, and then when they were changing that, they broke the mainline pipe, and then they went out in the front and dug up everything that I had worked on hard for all those years, and ripped up the walkways and everything that I had done in the front to run a mainline pipe right across my front yard. All that was done without a work permit. And I said, well, that's bullshit. They're lying, okay? This is just basic bathroom floor repair. It's not like you're building on a fucking shed or a porch, a major, like, you know, sunroom onto your house or something. This is just a basic bathroom floor. They're lying. She goes, I know, you know, but I can't, you know, keep living like this. And of course she doesn't want to move because there's no affordable housing. My God, she just got out of temporary women's shelters with her children, being bounced from women's shelter to women's shelter to women's shelter. She said the worst women's shelters are in Surrey. I said, why? Why are they so bad in Surrey? She says because they throw everybody into one location, drug addicts, everything. I said, well, how is that possible? How can they put a mother in there with 3 children, with a baby and everything, and a toddler with a bunch of drug addicts running around? She says, well, they do. I said, yeah, but if I had my drug addicted daughter living in my house, social workers would come in and take my grandkids away from me. That doesn't make no freaking sense. She goes, yeah, I know. So the last thing she wants to do is get back on that bandwagon, being forced out of this basement suite that she's paying $1,700 for, and that's just rent, people, right? Well, the landlords are refusing to fix anything, even though they said they would before she moved in, and then when it came time to move in, she realized they didn't, but it was too freaking late because she already had to leave the women's shelter because her time had ran out, and now she's like, she doesn't know what to do, okay? She's not going to qualify for this middle class income 30% subsidy off the rent that the federal government is investing $2 billion to build in more buildings, to build in that program, to lock everybody into that manufactured poverty where they're being held hostage to rent by the overlords. Okay? So basically what I did is I said, well, you know, you get out more than me. You get to walk around and do things, right? You're a little more mobile than I am because I'm pretty much housebound due to my circumstances with Amari and whatnot. I said, because she mentioned that in her neighborhood, right next to this old 1975 bungalow that she lives in, are 5 or 7 driveways, people, asphalt driveways with empty lots. What does that tell you, people? They tore down 5 to 7 houses all in a row right close by to her house to build in the next stack and pack that this fucking guy is talking about. Sorry, boo-boo guy is talking about. And then she made note to say that whatever they're advertising in terms of, you know, how they advertise this shit, they're looking for the investors to buy into the suites first before they start building. Been there, done that. That's what they did with that 55 and over there, and even then, nobody's living in it. I can almost guarantee you the place is only a quarter full, if maybe we're lucky 1/3 full out of I don't know how many suites, because it's just a means to launder money. Well, the big one down over there, where those 2 people were murdered and then covered up in the bush and were decomposing in the bush in between all the homeless people, when that building went up, it was the same thing. They were selling suites before they built the fucking building. But who can afford $3,500 a month for a 1 or 2 bedroom stack and pack building with plastic pipes and metal clamps to keep the pipes in place? Not that many, people. And I know that building over there, I know it's $3,500 or more per suite because I looked it up. I can't afford that. Hell, I get people coming from that building over there that are immigrants. Somehow they can afford it with a little teeny weeny baby walking down the street, looking in my yard and showing their baby, little toddler, a little 1.5-year-old, little girl, the cats and stuff. And I'm like, oh, how you doing? Oh, we I went out and I talked to them. I said, would you like your little daughter to see the rabbits? Here's some carrots. You can take her and go feed the rabbits. And he told me that he likes to walk around in the neighborhood, come by my place, because it looks like, interesting because it's green. Well, at least it's half the year when the sun is shining. But either or, I got cats running around, I got rabbits hopping around, and, I got a little pond going there, and nice little walkways, and he said, I'd like to take her out and just to get her out of that building, because there's nothing for them to do in that building. I said, well, anytime you want to come back, that's fine, especially when the weather gets better. You come bring carrots or lettuce or cabbage or whatever you want, you can feed the rabbit, I don't mind. But just be careful, though, because we've got Matilda the raccoon living on the property. He goes, raccoon? I said, yeah. Don't be surprised when you walk by and see Matilda run by with her 4 babies. So just be aware of that. She's harmless. She won't hurt you. But she lives on this property, too. He goes, oh, you got lots of animals. I said, yeah. It's like a sanctuary for them. Well, the city, the province, and the federal government wants to tear everything down. So I asked her, well, if that's the case, why don't you record that shit, and send me the video, and I'll import it into the videos that I'm doing, being that I can't go out, so that I can prove to you as the viewer, regardless from where you're watching from, what's going on in the province of British Columbia, Canada, from district to district to district, because sometimes she goes downtown, and she'll be recording house after house after house after house, freaking boarded up. And some of these houses are beautiful. So this is why they're building in this quote-unquote subsidized, pay 1/3 of the rent for the middle class as they prop up the property developers, the UN soldiers that live on the upper floors of the houses as a band of men, being that they work together in terms of, oh, new property to tear down? Let's go. Load up their fucking dump trucks, their trucks, and away they go. Oh, a new building to build? You look outside, and all you see is a whole bunch of Punjabi men fucking building another building with a few speckled other ethnicity groups in there, depending on who is the property developer. So we'll see. We'll see if she forwards me any videos. Because I said, I don't care. If you go downtown, you see the same shit, record it. Send me the video. I'll incorporate it into my videos. Okay? So let's just continue listening.
You can't go any higher than that. They don't say, well, it's a residential unit, so you can only charge $1 a square foot. I don't care how big it is. I don't care what neighborhood it's in. Oh, in fact, if it's in a higher end neighborhood, if it's a lower end neighborhood, it's going to be a different price. That's the solution that's going to make the difference. You can't trust people to do the right thing. If they were doing the right thing, we wouldn't be in the problems that we're having right now. We wouldn't be having 20 people living in a house right now because they all got here.
See? Did I not say it? They stack and pack them. He put it 20 in a number. I put anywhere between 5 to 15. Yeah. Stack and pack.
Via scams of the education system.
Oh, I guess he's referring to student visas here. That's another big problem. My son Brooks lost his housing because the Chinese owner of the house that he was living in for something like 6 years or whatever, they bought the property and decided that they wanted to bring in foreign students to supplement their income. So they kicked out everybody else that was living on that property for the last 6 years. And my son's basically been fucking transient, aka homeless, ever since. Go figure.
He wants to build 4-bedroom rental units. That's going to be excellent, isn't it? Just think of the amount of
That's the next generation of slums, people. It's just a matter of time before the cockroaches move in. They like to travel through the pipes. It's just a matter of time before the bed bugs move in. They like to travel between the baseboards. It's just a matter of time before the freaking cupboard bugs move in. They like to travel between cupboards to cupboards to cupboards through the walls. It's just a matter of time before the mice move in. And what do? They go from sweet to sweet to sweet to sweet to sweet to sweet. And then when the ants move in, ha 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 ha. Right? You know it. You know what I'm saying is true. Give those buildings 15, 10, 15, 20 years. They are the next generation of slums. Just by the very fact of how they were built. Once they're in the walls, once the bugs are in the baseboards, once the bugs are in the fucking cupboards, once the mice are in the building, once the ants have made their freaking nests, good luck getting rid of them. You won't. And then when those plastic pipes with those metal clips start fucking busting, like I said, what are they going to do? Oh, 15 suites got waterlogged. Well, you're going to have to leave because we need to do inside repairs now. We need to rip out the walls and, take out the insulation and because it's molding in between the walls with their fake fucking cedar 2x4s and Presto wood for walls. Yeah. They're not being built like they used to be built, people.
Joy that a person will have when they get to go, where they got to take all their kids down the hall, down the elevator, outside. I mean, when you have...
Yeah, and then come to my yard to feel like they're in a fucking park. Basically. You don't know how many people walk by my place taking pictures of the animals, wanting to touch, see the raccoons laughing and pointing fingers and don't want to leave. Hell, they steal my white flowers in the front so that they can have a dinner from home, for crying out loud. If it's not the potato thief doing it just to piss me off. I'm just saying.
Children, you want a home, you want to be able to put a swing set in the backyard, you want to be able to...
No, they want to come to my yard and look around and hang out and maybe let their little girl feed the rabbit as they're looking at the cat. One day that little girl's going to come with her parents who don't speak English very well. Obviously the wife couldn't, but the husband somewhat could. And she's going to be wanting to pet the cat. And she can. Because that's the only time she'll ever be able to pet a cat.
Own that house, so eventually there's equity that you can pass on to your family. This is how we create generational wealth. What he's talking about is...
No, they're too busy taking away generational wealth by medically kidnapping the baby boomers, stuffing them into old folks' homes, and then seizing their assets one way or another. Yeah, so that their properties, the homes that they own, the 1975s, 1960s homes like mine, go up on the market to provide these property developers a means to go borrow money from the fucking federal government and the provincial government to be demolition experts. Demolition experts. And then what happens when you have a surplus of people that you don't want around you anymore? Well, along comes murder by fentanyl. Along comes people like Debbie, my neighbor over here, who at 60 years old just up and died mysteriously in her house. Yeah. And guess what? As soon as that happened, her house went up for market. Yeah. Or my neighbor over there who all of a sudden had a heart attack and died on the operator. Or what about Pastor Granny? Huh? A woman, a pastor, 70 years old, working like a horse, right? Picking up food, making donations to all these different charities and locations, right? Dropping food off at my house, just up and all of a sudden had a fucking heart attack. But she didn't survive. No. Why? I'll tell you why, people. I thought about it. Because whatever connections that she had where she was picking up food as donations for the charities that she was supporting through her charity, through her church, they wanted it. And the only way they could get it was to get rid of Pastor Granny and cut that connection. And then that program, like, TNT that was donating to her, Nesters that was donating, wherever she got, because she was going to grocery stores and getting large amounts of donation that was being forwarded, and then she'd take it to here, here, here. She was donating all over the place, right? Including me, right? She was doing to individuals, she was doing to charities, she was doing to churches, okay? And that's what she did. And she was strong and healthy, never smoked a day in her life, was a freaking pastor. And look what happened to her. She got a heart attack and was dead 3 days, well, yeah, basically 3 days later, as the government workers were preventing her family from going inside and holding her hand. So they'll never know how she died, other than what they told her. But it served the purpose, though, because the donations that were going into, being forwarded to her went somewhere else, because her charity was shut down. Her daughter was trying to keep it alive, but I don't think so, because when I went back to Nesters and I brought up the subject of Pastor Granny and everything else, he told me that whatever they were donating to before no longer existed, and now they were donating someplace else. Yeah. There you go. And she was Korean. Pastor Granny was Korean. North Korean. South Korean. So she was donating to a South Korean charity, like church and other charities. Yeah. But she's dead now. And she had a heart attack. And her family couldn't even say goodbye because of what our politicians are doing. Yeah.
Not any of that. He's talking about keeping people paying a very few 1% forever.
Yep. Overlords.
Stupid.
Overlords, people.
Okay, now I want you to hear some of these questions. Man.
It's a long video, but it is what it is.
Today with CTV News, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg.
Everything's falling down
said
here.
That he expects the alliance members, including and specifically Canada, to spend 2% of GDP on defense, but if they're not at that level this year, they should have a date or when they will hit 2%. Your government has never articulated a date, yes or no, to when they will say when Canada will hit that 2%.
When we took office in 2015, we took over from a conservative government that had underinvested in defense. Under Stephen Harper and his Conservatives, defense spending in Canada actually dipped below 1% for the first time. And that's unacceptable. That's why, from the very beginning, we committed to increasing defense spending by 70%.
Right. You just invited the UN soldiers into Canada. You can't even rent a house anymore without them living above you. As they refuse, somebody in that group, the landlord, the owner, refuses to fix the fucking bathroom and wants you to take a rug and throw it over a rotten floor. After they tore down 7 houses in a row right next to that little house that's up on the chopping block. With the UN soldiers guarding the block, people. Stack and packing. Preventing a family from living there.
Over time, we're seeing the world continue to get more challenging, more complicated, with really difficult geopolitical forces, including a war in Ukraine. That means we need to continue to step up, and we have as a government, we will continue to. We will be there to step up with our NATO partners. We will be there to continue to make sure that the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces have the equipment they need, and that our allies can count on for us to continue to.
You already know that I think that this individual has been replaced. You know that.
Be there for them.
He was replaced a long time ago. Or he's genetically defective by birth. In other words, he's not who we think he is.
Date in mind when you could reach that 2% number?
We're going to continue to put forward our budgets and our proposals at the appropriate times.
So he's got no clue. And he says that they went below 1% GDP for what they were spending in Canada. He didn't mention what they were spending in NATO, right? Because it was 2% to NATO. It's not 2% to Canada, it's 2% to NATO. And NATO doesn't fight under the Canadian flag. NATO fights under the NATO flag. So there's a lot there that he didn't say. That's a misnomer. Now, I didn't look up directly the amount of, you know what, I'll look it up right now. Hang on a second. Okay, so according to the CGAI, which is the Canadian Government Investment Agency, they spent 1.24% in 2015 was sent to NATO. So whatever he's talking about, it was spent in Canada is not what was spent overall. I'm tired of people splitting hairs. I'm tired of people saying half-truths, and I am absolutely tired of people trying to tell you that everything is sunny when it isn't. If you can't be honest with the fact that when you have done nothing to give NATO in 8 years, that you're still trying to blame everybody else, I don't think that you deserve any leniency. All right, let's go on to the next question.
In housing, investing in middle-income rentals that people can afford, taking the GST off of purpose-built construction from rental apartments. These are things.
You will own nothing, and you will be happy. Get rid of your tools if you can't afford 70% of a middle-income subsidy. You have to pay 70% income of your middle-class wage to subsidize the federal and the provincial and municipal governments before you can qualify to live in their stack and pack, plastic, clamped, future generation of slums. And then call that quality living. Well, you know, as time goes by, some of those individuals that live in that building will be targeted to remove them from that building one way or another by any means necessary so the overlords can jack up the rent and do it again to somebody else. In terms of, well, if you want to live here, you have to pay $6,000 a now. But my neighbor over there only pays $4,000. Well, that's them. Don't worry, we'll take care of them. We'll get rid of them soon enough. You're moving in new. It's new rules because you're a new tenant. Just ignore the cockroaches. Just ignore the bugs. They won't bother you. They've been here long before you showed up.
Yes, the federal government and the BC government respectively have to spend money to invest to help people through these difficult times. Right-wing politicians continue to talk about the fact that we need cuts, that somehow cuts are going to help people get in.
Balance the budget. Along comes, what do they call themselves? The United Party, a.k.a. BC Liberal Provincial Party, with their 5 great grand goals. We'll start with cutting off vulnerable women with 5 dependent children with a blind man and kick him out onto the streets in the middle of winter and never hold our government to account for what they did to the destruction of a Canadian family.
To homes or afford childcare, cuts to programs are going to be able to help the more vulnerable or seniors.
He's not even addressing the more vulnerable. He's pandering to the so-called middle class, just trying to prevent themselves from ending up out on the streets like all those millions of Americans living in their RVs, campers, cars, makeshift tents. Wouldn't want that to be in their face now in Canada. It would be too noticeable. People would start putting the dots together. But no, they got to come in with their little fucking backroom deal, smooth it over so they can continue to ease in their Agenda 2050. Forget the 2030. Let's go for the goal of 2050. And by then, whatever they're building now will be nothing but slums. Empty or not. Did you know that a bed bug can live for over 1.5 years without feeding? A building can sit empty full of fucking bed bugs for a year and a half. With those bed bugs hibernating in the baseboards. And as soon as a human moves in, what do you think happens? Oh, it's party time. It's on. It's on.
Approach on austerity, their approach of justifying their cuts and going back to a trickle down where the wealthiest get great advantages and tax breaks and hopefully it'll make it down to everyone else simply doesn't work. It never has.
So right out of the gate, let me explain to you that this is all incorrect, right? The reason that they call it a trickle down is that when you have that kind of economy, it's not that the rich people are spending money and everybody's getting money off of that. That's a horrible way to look at it. The idea is that they have the money to invest and create jobs, right? And when your economy is balanced, you have to collect less taxes, so people will have more money in their pocket. The United Arab Emirates in the Middle East, they're like the world's largest oil producer. Guess how much income tax and corporate tax they collect from the people that go to their country? Zero.
Yes, but we also know that in the United Emirates, they also illegally harvest organs. But of course, nobody talks about that. So when one of those people come and move into Canada and hook up with that underground economy, with the criminal organization in partnership with the criminal fucking, what is that called? Organized religion, and starts pulling out organs from dead bodies that were murdered by fentanyl or whatever in the hospitals that the public pays for, you know. See, that's the thing these guys, they don't ever acknowledge, because they've never been faced with it. And for someone at this age, if he had the money and he had to choose whether he would go as far as to buy organs illegally just so that he could survive, well, there's a high probability that if he could afford it, he would. And he wouldn't ask questions as to where those organs came from. We haven't addressed that problem in the Western world yet, regardless of what doctor is doing it, whether it came from India, Punjab, China, wherever in China, or the United Emirates. But it's not just one ethnicity that's doing it in terms of illegal organ harvesting, as money from that is being facilitated into the housing market to accumulate wealth and to keep feeding what's going on in general. In general, people.
Not a penny. Not a single solitary nickel is taken from people that live in the United Arab Emirates on taxes. And they don't live bad at all. I mean, they got a gigantic city in the middle of the sand. Because there is...
I don't care. I don't trust them. They don't deal with illegal organ harvesting in their own country. And if they think they can get away with it here in Canada and have taxpayers pay for it and the government to protect them while they do it, hell, it's like a gold mine for them.
That much money in their country that they are able to provide without having to take it from the people. The natural resources are turned into a better standard of living for everyone involved. And if you're part of the original group of people that from like Dubai or whatever, then you get a little kickback even in the month. What I want you as a Canadian to understand is that just ask yourself this question. You got a person who's not too wealthy and you got a person who's really wealthy. And they are both living in the same, they are both going to the same school, they go, you know, all of that stuff. Their children are going to the same school. The school sends home a paper and says, we're going to go to the park, or we're going to go to the zoo, we need $50. The person who's not doing as well has trouble with that $50, and the person who's doing better can give that $50 without any problem. So if you take that and you scale it up to your country, when your government is not operating in a debt, when your government has money, then all of a sudden it can start to put money into those programs. When have you ever heard yourself say that guy is rich and now his life is in a bad way because he has money? Well, the idea still holds. So if you're telling yourself that I can save up enough money that the money that's being earned in this country and the fiscal responsibility that we've taken can allow us to invest in the roads, can allow us to invest in the trains can allow us to pay off the debts that were run up by previous governments, and it will allow us to stop taking taxes from people. It will allow us to lower the tax rates on the poorest of people. It will allow us to reinvest that money.
Okay, that's not what we're supposed to be talking about here, buddy.
Because we can afford it. We didn't have to borrow any money. We didn't have to collect taxes from anybody, and we don't owe anybody anything. We owe the Canadian people what we owe, and that's it. So this idea that all of a sudden you're going to just keep collecting, borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and then all of a sudden it's going to magically fix itself. You can read 100 history books on how that doesn't happen like that. It just does not happen like that. What does happen is when you balance the books and you pay the money, you're able to afford better programs. You're able to put gym teachers back in schools. You're able to make the roads wider. You're able...
Okay, so what does this have to do with housing? Get on with it.
To clean the water. You're able to tell other countries that you don't care if they don't like you, that they can keep their... Just imagine that it's the same as any person who's rich. They can do what they want, right? Or, you know what I mean, within reason. And so the country can look after itself. It doesn't need to borrow. It doesn't need to beg. It doesn't need to do any of that.
We must be coming up to an election, federal election year here soon or something.
Daycare centers, they can say it's all right. We can afford to build one.
He must be a conservative.
And not only can we afford to build one, we're going to build 3. Let's go on the next one.
Can app contracting and development, and do you take responsibility for those failures?
There continue to be ongoing investigations, both external and otherwise, into the contracting process. It is obvious that the contracting process rules were not followed in this case, and we need to make sure that there is accountability and transparency around. Okay,
now we're getting into some kind of distraction here, away from the subject at hand. Okay, I don't know. Contracting of what?
That. But let us remember that during the pandemic, we were reaching out to try and keep people safe, keep people alive, make sure that our economy didn't falter at a time where everything was in question. Even in those most difficult times, we need to make sure...
Right. And when they died, like Pastor Granny, they were at the hands of God knows what, as their family members were prevented from going inside and saying goodbye, and witnessing how their mother was being treated before she died at age 70 from a quote-unquote heart attack. And we know what happened to her network of donations that were being given to her for years went to, after she died, to a whole new group of people under a different title in terms of, well, we don't give to this nonprofit, aka church, anymore. We give to this nonprofit, aka church, now, because we removed the middle one, the middle person, Pastor Granny. And we'll really never know, like Ciera, what happened to her behind closed doors under Trudeau's protecting the public.
The rules were followed. When public servants, in this case, did not follow the rules adequately, there will be there are investigations and there will be consequences.
First of all, I don't believe there'll be any consequences, and I'll tell you the Freudian slip when that guy asked the question, the first thing he did was shake his head no. So he doesn't take responsibility for it at all. He wants all the glory and none of the responsibility. He wants you to say that he saved everybody and he stepped up and he did this and he did that and he did the other things, but in reality he's just throwing the public servants now under the bus. It's always somebody else's fault with this guy, right? It's never, I'm the leader, it's my fault. It's always, I'm the leader, I stepped up, as long as none of the thing is bad. Then once it's bad, it's got to be somebody else's problem, because I'm so great and wonderful that I could never possibly make a mistake. I could never possibly do a bad decision. Then he likes to say, well, the pandemic was going on, and so what you're telling me is that in an emergency, you panicked. in an emergency, you lost your cool and you made mistakes and you didn't even try to fix those mistakes. You just told yourself that it would all go away, that you could sweep it all under the bus, that you under the rug, you could hide it if you just stop enough people from going to committee.
I don't even know what they're talking about here in terms of the contract. What contract?
You keep saying to the country, oh, well, the pandemic was happening and I was trying to save the economy. And then you'll say, well, the economy is bad because we had the pandemic. You didn't save the economy and you didn't stop any of the problems that came out of it. So it's all the public servants' fault, and then it's all somebody, it's COVID, it's everybody else's fault, but not Prime Minister Trudeau's fault, who's the head of the country, right? So let's appreciate, again, taking that and putting that into the context of a family, right? So you got your house is all crap, but it's never the husband's fault. It's never the father's fault. It's never the guy that's supposed to be in charge of the house. It's never his fault. It's always the kid's fault. It's always the wife's fault. It's always her sister-in-law. It's always the mailman. It's always somebody else's problem. Does that make sense to you? Accountability matters, especially in leadership, at least to people like me. You know, when you want me to tell you that you're stepping up, you want me to tell you that you're rolling up your sleeves, you want me to believe that you got
get on
my
with
back.
it, buddy.
Prove it, because it doesn't look like it from where I'm sitting.
And today's announcement obviously is meant to help people with housing, but how does it help?
Okay, so back to the subject. Today's announcement is obviously meant to help what?
People desperate for housing.
All right, let's just... where are we? We're at 1548. So we want to go to 1544.
Is meant to help people with housing, but how does it help people desperate for housing today? How does it fix things in the short term?
Well, yeah, there is no short term because we're looking at 2050 here, people.
We know that there have been quick supports for housing, whether it was with the Rapid Housing Initiative, whether it was with a range of other things we've done to create emergency and rapid housing. This is about building now and for the future as well. People know you can't build an apartment building in 10 days.
The next generation of slums, people. It's not long before the bugs move in.
But you can do it in a faster way than has been done in the past, and that's why the leadership that BC has shown in compressing time.
Don't tell me that wasn't a backroom deal. Don't tell me this wasn't conspired long before it was ever brought to the public. Okay. The NDP made it sound like they're the ones that came with it, with the idea, and was the first pilot project to the idea. But yet, as fast as they brought it to the public, you got the federal government in there matching them $2 billion for loans to speed up the process so that my landlord can get her $3 million for this house guaranteed. That's why they didn't sell it, because they know it's just a matter of time before the fucking federal government, provincial government, and whatever other partner, right, gets all their ducks in order so that when she puts her sign up, she'll get her $3 million. And by that point, she might get more than $3 million, and she'll be 87, 86, 85, who knows how old. Yeah. Going for her second heart surgery. Yeah, well, Pastor Granny's rolling around in her grave, knowing that families like mine are being forced out of our housing and slowly but surely starved out, as the government's propping up the middle class with a 30% subsidy in terms of income to prevent them from ending out on the streets, so that it looks like we live in little America. And people start to say, well, what happened? We know this shit was happening in America, but it didn't really bother us because it was happening to those Americans. But now that we're Canadians and we're finding ourselves in the same boat, clearly there's something wrong here.
Timelines in making sure that people can see the buildings go up around them, see the opportunity for them.
Yeah, block out the sun, kill off all the trees, kill off the Matildas and their babies, make it so birds really have no place to go, right? Get rid of the pets, Make it so that there's no blackberry bushes, no apple trees, no walnut trees, right? No grapevines, no gardens, right? Everybody's on their best behavior, because if they're not, they might get evicted with laws where they can't roam the streets because it's illegal. Yeah.
To be able to get it.
Right? Gate them off. Right? With their... Well, you only have so much money. You can only travel so far. All your money's going to rent.
Into a new home, to start a family, to grow their...
No.
To grow their...
That's not a home. That's an apartment. I've lived in apartments.
Nest eggs, these are things...
I wouldn't consider that a home. Although I can say I'm going home, but no. What I live in is more like a home than when I lived in the apartment. And even on my home, this one right now, I'm expected to get rid of my tools because they're not needed anymore. Basically. From, they're unnecessary. They take up space.
Things that we're continuing to focus on, and it happens with constructive collaboration, cooperation across orders of government, not by picking fights among us as conservatives want to.
Yeah, conservatives.
Telling you that if you don't meet your, because he's referring to Pierre Poilievre saying that if you don't meet the quota of the city building permits, then we're giving you less money or giving you more money, has no problem when it's checks and when it's bonuses that he's handing out to CBC, but somehow he thinks that it's picking fights with cities. That's just, again, trying to plant something in your head that's not true. At best,
Okay, I don't understand this, so I'm not even going to try and pretend that I do.
It's like a half-truth, right? What they call a half-truth. There's absolutely no way in the world you can cut corners on how things are built. There's absolutely no way in the world that you can do that and still get quality housing. You know what he didn't say? He didn't say, no, we're going to rent out, an air shelter and put these people in it, like a hangar somewhere on a disused airport, and put these people in it. We're going to take them and we're going to put them in a, he didn't say any of that. He didn't say we're going to take all of the people who are suffering and we're going to put them in.
I already said we got 83,000 people coming to BC just recently through immigration out of a total of 500,000 that came into Canada in 2023, but they're only building in BC, 5 to 10,000 suites over a period of how long? And that's specifically targeted for those above 60,000, which would be considered a middle class income, to which after it's being built based on loans, the people that move in only have to pay 70% of that quote-unquote mortgage in the form of rent. So who owns it? The property developer or the province? Well, it must be the property developers because they're the ones getting the loans. They move in the UN soldiers after the tenants in the house so that somebody that's there when it comes to the UN soldier has their name listed as part owner to the house, so when it comes down to either selling it or demolishing it, they don't have to pay taxes on it, people. The rabbit hole goes a little deeper than what's being talked about here. Okay? That's why my landlady wanted to kick out my son in the basement, because she wanted to move somebody along her family line, somehow, some way, into the house, so that when she sold it, right, they wouldn't have to pay $300,000 to the government in taxes because part owner lived on the property for an X amount of time. even though she's owned this house since 1991 and only paid $175,000 for it, to which I've paid her mortgage twice since I've lived here. So any rental increase is just more income for them to perhaps build another monster house somewhere else to sustain themselves, so she can pass it on to her granddaughter, hoping that her granddaughter will love her because grandma left her a house. Kind of reminds me of Joan. Everybody loved Joan when Joan had a life insurance policy and they could cash it in, including robbing it from Uncle John. But after that, before that, they didn't give a shit about Joan. The only time they cared about Joan is when the money came. And that came in the form of a life insurance policy. Because I don't understand my landlady, the way she's so consumed with amassing great wealth at age 84, outside of, she told me that she's trying to leave her grandkids something. Well, my grandkids become the next victims to this whole process. And don't tell me that's not true.
To some building that we got that's empty sitting on government. He just said, well, everybody knows that it takes time. So really you're doing nothing, right? This announcement did nothing to help the people that are in trouble right now. It's done nothing, and it's going to be years before it's completed. Years before it's completed. There's all kinds of issues that can happen. You don't know what he's going to dig up out of the ground. Where are they putting that soil that they're digging up out of the ground? Who's going to sign off on whether or not the cement was good? Who's going to, like, you know...
Yeah, well, but they've also speeded up the process of having houses like mine, block after block, district after district, right across the whole freaking province, to go faster and faster and faster. And this is where Rhea, in her travels, is going to start forwarding me videos so I can import them into these types of videos so you can see for yourself that what I tell you is not a lie.
Because these are buildings now, all of a sudden the pilings are deep. That when you're building 150 units in one location, you have to think about all of these things. You have to think about a lot of things.
Yeah, with subpar wood, Presto wood planks, right? Plastic pipes with metal clamps that can spring off. And then because those pipes are plastic, they're not metal, what they do is once the pressure's released, they're right? Because I almost got electrocuted from those pipes, busting a clamp, shooting into a dryer that was working when I lived at that fourplex that had that little grow-op, right? They freeze, because I just went through that this winter with the little plastic pipe that the last dude that came in underneath my sink to repair a leak didn't want to get the soldering flame with the soldering and solder the metal pipe. Instead, he cut off the copper pipe, put in a plastic pipe, tried to convince me that it was better than the metal pipe, the copper pipe that is, when in fact it wasn't, because it was a hot water pipe that actually froze, of all pipes. The cold water one didn't, well, because it was metal, it was copper. But in the past, I've had the cold water pipe freeze if I don't let my pipes drip in the wintertime, and I had to unthaw it. Not this time. This time it was the hot water plastic pipe that froze as he's walking off with the copper pipe in his hand, saying it's garbage. And I'm in my mind, no, you're stealing it so that you can piece it in, being that you're a plumber, into one of your houses, so that you don't have to use plastic pipes, right? But because this house is being torn down soon, who gives a shit? Well, they're building all these buildings now with plastic pipes, I'm telling you, people. With Presto wood. Plywood. Presto plywood sheets. And cedar 2x4s. Which is a crappy wood when it comes to durability.
And then there's running the wiring, and then there's the lack of in Canada of tradesmen. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like a young person, say 16, 17.
Not in British Columbia, Canada. We have the UN soldiers here that go from district to district to district and are qualified to do whatever it is it requires to build these things. Okay, we don't have a lack of that. They specifically brought in these men, stack and pack them in these houses to do the shit that this guy's talking about. In terms of building, destruction, whatever. Borrowing. They set up corporations with numbers. With a whole bunch of individuals owning, like, in partnership, like they're shareholders to the corporation. The corporation doesn't have a name. This is Busy Bee Corporation Limited. No, it's like numbers, a whole bunch of fucking numbers. And then you gotta go try and figure out who are the owners to that corporation. And then you get a bunch of fucking Punjabi names or a bunch of bloody Muslim names, or you might come across a bunch of Chinese names. It depends on what district and what group of people you're dealing with at that time when it comes to these buildings.
You need to go into the trades because there's going to be enormous amounts of money and a lifetime worth of work in it. You know, like, and don't even think the hard ones like electrician or whatever. Plumbers, stupid money. Laying down flooring guys, they're going to make a lot of money. Cabinetry, it's good money.
My landlady says that she has a hard time people coming to the house doing the small job because these big jobs with these buildings, you know, that's where everybody's working. And they don't got time to come and fix underneath my sink. Unless, of course, it's a complete emergency. And even then, the guy ran off with the copper pipe and left me with something that was inferior and froze a hot water plastic pipe in the middle of winter even though my tap was fucking dripping. Go figure. And then it was Edgar, my son's son, who had to come and finally do the repairs under the sink that guy, when he was here replacing that other pipe, should have done the first time, but it didn't get done. So I lived for over a year with my sink leaking underneath it. Because the house is being tore down anyway. So what does it matter? I couldn't find anybody to do it. But after a year and almost half living with that shit, I pleaded with my son to have Edgar come and try and fix it. Because everybody else is too busy with the big jobs. That my landlady can't find somebody to come and do the small jobs. Like, stupid.
In that, you know, you don't necessarily own a lot of suits, but you do make six figures. So, anyway, I just want you to see how...
Okay, end of this video.
He wants to give you this flowery picture without giving you the reality, because the reality will make you realize that we are in a bad way.
Damn right we're in a bad way. I agree with him 100%. Okay, now I did say I forgot, right? I got it already on the other computer, ready to go over the videos. I do raw as is, on the fly, right? No faking the funk from me, okay? But I did say I was going to read my comment, to which still is there. And I know that because somebody gave it a thumbs up, because I was concerned at one point that YouTube was going to shadow ban it. You can see it was posted 2 days ago. So it's taken me 2 days and a bit to come back and to do this. And then we still have one more video as part 3 for this little series that I'm talking on about. Because basically, when you live in fear, perpetual fear, to which you go into my videos, people, and you know I've been on the run in my own country for a long time. And not only have I been on a run with the whip on my back, being treated as like a second-class citizen here, I've been losing my family members due to that welcome to the new Congo ideology that all these loving immigrants bring to my country as they partner up with my government to commit crimes, so that those above the middle class can prosper and flourish and become the overlords of everybody below them, which creates a world of fear. Right? You either when you're fearful of something, you have two choices: fight or flight. Well, I fight. People don't like it though. They want to slap you down. Right? Cut you off at the knees. Put their fucking foot on your neck. Right? Boot you in the ass. Right? Throw your ass out into the snow. Whatever. Humiliate you, gaslight you, call you down, call you this, call you that. Right? Abuse you by any means necessary in order to put you in your place so that you will be fearful and conform. And then once that happens, you will be easier to control and then take out where who gives a shit? Nobody will notice. Anyway, in regards to whatever I was listening to at that time on this video, I stopped and I made a comment within that 19 minutes, okay? And this is what I had to say. The Punjabis and Chinese, Muslims, 3 different ethnic groups, okay, have torn down so many single-family homes in British Columbia, Canada, as property developers that there is not much left for anyone else to move into, whether buying or renting. And that's why they're now scoping out rec centers to build above the rec center 3-bedroom apartments or any available property where they can find it to build 3 or 4-bedroom apartments as they continue to build their stack and pack, whatever, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, whatever you want to call them, with their plastic pipes, metal clips, Presto board, cost-cutting measures, stack and packs that may or may not sit empty because it feeds into the fiscal budgets where they may or may not have a surplus. Well, everybody else in the interim is falling through the fucking cracks except the UN soldiers holding down the forts until those houses are torn down. Old bungalows are selling for $3 million, whereas with renting the same house, the overlords, forget about calling them landlords because they're not. They're overlords, want $4,500 per month. Immigrants are the preferred citizen now, being they receive federal, provincial, and municipal subsidies. I've explained it to you. As they relocate into BC and are housed with the assistance of nonprofits and municipal staff. I've explained it to you. I've witnessed it myself. Well, my daughter, a Canadian-born individual, was pimped out on the streets for 8 years to prop up what we're talking about here. Okay? Stack and packing people has become the norm. You heard him say it himself. 20 people. That's a bit extreme, but I suppose depending on the size of the house and how desperate the fucking overlord is for that money, I believe it. Okay? The bigger the house, the more you can stack into it. If you're willing to stack in 7 to 10 people in a small 2-bedroom, fucking right. A 4-bedroom, 20. When I first moved into the mainland in 1994, and then I rented my house at Wally's house, which was a 3 upstairs bedroom, and one downstairs with a garage that was somewhat turned into a bedroom, 2 baths. So we'll just say a 4-bedroom house with 2 baths and an illegal kitchen in the basement. When I went in there looking with Uncle John to rent the place before we rented it, because they, came up for rental, there was a Punjabi with a turban in every single room. It didn't matter what it was. By the time I walked out of there and I ended up moving in, do you know I was getting fucking 12 people, 12 GST individual checks that were being delivered to that house, as well as 1 check from the federal government for family allowance. So I was handing over 13 different federal checks from that house that I rented from Wally because of the numbers of people that were living in it. Uncle John and I, we couldn't believe it. We went from room to room to room, and every room we walked into, there was somebody different with a fucking turban on. Okay? I'm just saying. And they must have had somebody in there that had a kid, because came one check, was the 13th check was a family allowance check. I could tell by the envelope because I had kids with family allowance. So for him to say 20 in a house is not unusual. I've just never heard of it, although I do believe it, depending on the size of the house, regardless of its age. Okay? Let's go back. Stack and packing people has become the norm for overlords to get rich, as money laundering within the housing market is general via criminal activity. Murder by fentanyl. How does that, let's read this again. Stack and packing people has become the norm for overlords to get rich, as money laundering within the housing market in general via criminal activity, murder by fentanyl, and illegal organ harvesting of Canadian-born people is rampant. Rampant. Organized crime in partnership with organized religion. Punjabis, Chinese, Muslims, throw in a few Catholics in there. Okay? Go hand in hand in British Columbia, Canada. Before you could even write or think about or say it, you have to experience it. If you haven't experienced it, why would you believe it? You wouldn't. Because you got your head in the sand. That's why.